Chapter 1501. Back to Academy. Ouyang Haoshuan shook his head with a faint chill in his dark eyes. Feng Lianying and Ye Jinshin are both dead. It wasn't them or the Feng family who hurt me, but Feng Lianying's master. Feng Lianying's master? Has she suddenly remembered the voodoo goo that she was affected by in the Breaking Spirit Mountain that day? Her pupils shrank suddenly as she said slowly, "Thousand Poison Valley Master?" Nangong Exen walked swaggeringly in the Miracle Healer Academy. He held the slender boy in his arms with one hand while touching the boy's slippery cheek with the other fat hand from time to time. A pair of mung bean eyes kept turning around, with an indescribably excited and wretched expression. This Miracle Healer Academy is indeed a place where young geniuses gather. Walking in the academy and looking around, all I see are handsome young men who give me an unbearable itch. If I wasn't on a mission and there are some powerful forces behind Miracle Healer Academy, I would have raped those young men like a hungry tiger. The young man nestled in Nangong Xian's arms was wearing a snow-white mask with a pattern of vines on it, revealing only a small, delicate mouth. He didn't look weird, but looked rather tender and charming. However, when the Miracle Healer Academy students saw the fat Nangong Xian hugging the young man, they couldn't help but spit and show a disgusted expression. The boy who was held in Nangong Xian's arms was naturally Tong Bing. He originally thought that it would not be easy to mix into the Miracle Healer Academy with Nangong Xian. After all, Miracle Healer Academy had a defensive barrier that rejected outsiders. Nangong Xian smiled with disdain when he heard his worries. Just an academy in the lower realm. It's an honor for people of our Nangong family to visit it. How dare a shitty academy not allow me, Nangong Xian, to visit? They aren't afraid of me wiping out their existence? Sure enough, as soon as Nangong Xian showed his identity, no matter how much dissatisfaction Jean Liqing and Deputy Dean Jiang had, they still had to agree to his request and arrange him to the newly renovated Mojing Pavilion. Deputy Dean Jiang endured the anger in his heart, and he repeatedly asked Nangong Xian to stay in the Mojing Pavilion and not to walk around the Miracle Healer Academy at will, so as not to frighten the students. But Nangong Xian ignored Deputy Dean Jiang's words and appeared in the academy swaggeringly. He even hugged the toy boy, Tong Bing. Tong Bing felt the disgusted eyes of the people around him, and resentment surged in his heart. But thinking that she would receive the same treatment in the near future and even be rejected by everyone, Tong Bing forgot about the current discomfort. Third Master, this is Huang Medical Branch. Shi Yu is one of Huang Medical Branch's students. Nangong Xian squinted his eyes. The fat on his face moved. Huang Medical Branch was located in a relatively remote place of Miracle Healer Academy. The spirit was not strong, and the appearance of the young men was worse. He was looking around while frowning. Suddenly, he saw someone that petrified him. In the dormitory area of Huang Medical Branch not far away, a young man wearing a blue and white Miracle Healer Academy uniform was slowly walking toward them. Even though it was the most common college costume, it felt as bright as the moon and as beautiful as jade when worn on the young man's body. The young man's facial features were so exquisite as if they were sculpted by a skillful master. Even the best painter couldn't depict 30% of his charm. Chapter 1502. Peerless Young Man. The young man's skin was as white as snow. Under the sun, it seemed to project a luster, which made people want to touch it with their own hands, but they were afraid that it will melt if they touched. The young man's expression was as cold as ice, but it made people feel even more aloof and pure like snow on the high mountain. It was completely different from the gaudy and vulgar of other ordinary people. Nangong Xian's eyes were dull. While staring straight at the boy who was getting closer and closer, his mouth was drooling. How can there be such a handsome young man in this world? How can there be a young man who is more crystal clear than the legendary fairy? If this young man was mine, if I could trample him under my body. Nangong Xian drooled even more, and his eyes almost burst into flames. If I had to give up other toy boys for him, I would be willing. Seeing the young man getting closer and closer, Nangong Xian thought he was looking for him. The fat on his face suddenly piled up, revealing an obsessed and fawning expression. But the next moment, The young man completely ignored them and walked past them. Wait a minute. Nangong Exen snapped back to his senses, threw Tong Bing away from his arms, and rushed toward the young man. However, before his hand touched the young man, his vision blurred, and he missed the hand. Nangong Exen's obese body staggered a bit, and he looked up with a surprised gaze. The young man had appeared not far away, looking at him with unkind eyes. Seeing the young man's unparalleled handsome face, Nangong Exen drooled again. His mung bean eyes narrowed. They were full of desire and greed. He sneered while sucking his saliva, "Little beauty, as long as you go back with me and become my people, I, Third Master, will promise you a prosperous future. Even if you want to go to heaven, I will also bring you there." Who is this fat pig? He's actually drooling at Shiyu. Qian Dezhuang, who was walking beside Heshi, was almost disgusted by Nangong Exen's expression and eyes. "Hey, fat pig, are you tired of living? Who do you think you are? Is Miracle Healer Academy the place you can act shamelessly?" Jin Ziyu frowned, quickly found someone to block Heshi, and said coldly, "Who are you? Why have I never seen you before? Don't you know that not anyone can break into Miracle Healer Academy?" Nangong Exen couldn't see the beautiful young man, so he woke up immediately, only to notice that a group of people following the beautiful young man were pointing and cursing at him. They even blocked the beautiful young man, which immediately made him furious. "What are you guys? Dare to stand in my way? Do you believe I could kill you all right now? Get lost. I'm talking to the little beauty. Who are you to intervene?" Nangong Exen was about to step forward, then Tong Bing at the side suddenly stepped forward, grabbed him, and whispered in his ear, "Third Master, that person is Shiyu." "Shiyu? Which Shiyu?" Nangong Exen was taken aback for a moment, then his eyes widened suddenly. "Shiyu, the man Nangong Yu is going to marry. The peerless and beautiful young man I want to own is actually Shiyu." Nangong Exen was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. Now I can understand it. It turns out that Shiyu has such an extraordinary demeanor and appearance. No wonder his icy nephew is so moved that he doesn't even want women. However, it will be troublesome if this beautiful young man is Shiyu. I understand my nephew very well. If I touch his people, won't I be beaten into meat paste by him? Chapter 1503. Daydream. If this beautiful young man is someone from other lower realms, I can just rape him without scrupulous. But if he is Nangong's future wife? Tong Bing saw Nangong Exen's hesitation, and a gloomy light flashed in his eyes. He whispered in Nangong Exen's ear, "Third Master, this lustful Shiyu has already hooked up with many people. If so, His Royal Highness King of Hell knew about this, would he still be willing to marry such a man back? What's more, Third Master, you are from the upper realm. Your status is no worse than King of Hell. In the eyes of Binger, Third Master, you are a very strong person and someone who is worthy of relying on. I believe Shiyu will also look at Third Master differently." Hearing this, Nangong Exen squinted his mung bean eyes again, and most of the hesitation in his mind disappeared immediately. Tong Bing is right. Nangong Yu wants to marry Shiyu because he didn't know that Shiyu hooks up with other men. If he knows, would Nangong Yu still want such a young man? At that time, wouldn't Shiyu still be mine? Thinking of this, Nangong Exen immediately smiled and walked toward the beautiful young man. Qian Dezhuang blocked Nangong Exen and said with angry eyes, "I warn you, this is not a place where you fat pig can act wild." Before he could finish speaking, Nangong Exen's fat palm swung toward him with great vigor. He muttered, "Trash from the lower realm dares to block my way? Are you courting death?" Qian Dezhuang was caught off guard. He only felt a strong force hit him, and he was thrown to the ground all at once. Looking at this scene, Heshi squinted with a hint of murderous intent in her eyes. Nangong Exen got closer to Heshi. Seeing her exquisite eyes and her snow-white and delicate skin, he felt more thrilled and captivated than when he saw from a distance. He couldn't help drooling and stretched out his hand toward the pretty face that made him fascinated. "Little beauty, let Third Master love you well." Seeing that the indecent pig hand was about to touch the cheek as smooth as white jade, a red and blue light flashed. Nangong Exen only felt a sharp pain in the fingers, then he saw 3 of his chubby fingers were cut off by half. Blood splattered all of a sudden, and the white fingers fell to the ground, seeming to bounce twice. Nangong Exen's whole body was stiff. Until the piercing pain at his fingertips spread through his entire body, he let out a miserable howl like killing a pig. Not far away, He looked at the howling Nangong Exen with a sneer. Her face was white as snow and her demeanor was elegant. The Li Shui sword in her hand floated in the air. The light of the sword was cold. It was not stained with a trace of dust or blood. Nangong Exen howled for a while, withstood the pain, and took out the wound medicine from the storage ring and sprinkled it on. Although the severed finger could not be regenerated, the pain and blood were stopped immediately. Nangong Exen stared at Heshi with mung-bean eyes and said with resentment, "Bitch, don't be shameless. You are just a scumbag who can hook up with anyone. You really think you are noble? Do you know who I'm? I'm Nangong Yu's third uncle, Nangong Exen. You dare to hit me? Do you believe I'll go back and let Nangong Yu take care of you right away? How dare you?" Heshi squinted with a cold and mocking expression. "Oh? Nangong Exen, you are from the Nangong family?" Nangong Exen sneered, "Are you afraid now? Don't forget that you are a man and a low-level martial artist from the lower realm. It's just a daydream trying to marry into my Nangong family." Chapter 1504, Beat him up. If I say a few more bad things about you to my second brother, the current family master of the Nangong family, saying that you seduced Nangong Yu, how long do you think you can live? As Nangong Exen said, he slowly approached Heshi. Seeing her unparalleled beauty, his heart was agitated. He couldn't help showing a lewd and evil smile, and he said in a low voice, "However, if you please me well, maybe I will say a few good words to my second brother when I'm in a good mood. Even if you can't marry into the Nangong family openly, you can at least be my toy boy." Heshi showed a leisure smile. This smile instantly diluted the original glamour on her face. The already beautiful face became more dazzling than the sun. Looking at this smile, Nangong Exen was in a trance. He only had one thought. No wonder some people say that a smile can captivate a city, a smile can captivate a country. It turns out that there is really such a beauty in this world. However, before Nangong Exen stretched out his hand, the smile on Hishi's face had already turned into a cold chill. Her slender figure soared into the air, and she kicked Nangong Exen hard in the chest. At the critical moment, Nangong Exen only remembered to protect himself with spiritual power. However, his fat body was still kicked far away. His internal organ and blood in the body were tumbling. Nangong Exen felt dizzy for a while, and he couldn't move for a long time. Heshi sneered, "It turns out that the people of the Nangong family are nothing more than that. Ziyu, since he asks for it himself, we don't have to be polite." A smile appeared in Jin Ziyu's eyes, and he waved to the people behind him. "Beat him up." Nangong Exen just wanted to get up and use spiritual power to let himself recover from the dizziness, but he was suddenly surrounded by a group of people. A storm of punches and kicks followed. Nangong Exen screamed in pain and rolled around. He wanted to release the spirit pressure of his nascent soul stage several times and wanted to cast his magic weapons. However, whenever his spiritual power was running in Dantian, there would be a more powerful and pure spirit pressure forcing back his spiritual power, dissipating the spiritual power that he condensed. Heshi sneered and looked at Nangong Exen with a swollen face. Seeing that he wanted to resist, she directly launched a spiritual power at him. "Shiyu, how can you let someone humiliate Third Master like this? Don't you have any sense of shame?" A slightly hoarse voice came from the side. Heshi turned around and saw a young man wearing a mask. Heshi squinted her eyes. Although the young man's voice was unfamiliar, this figure gave her a familiar feeling. Before she could speak, Zhang Yi on the side had already snorted and said, "What are you? Even you're not ashamed of being a toy boy, why should Brother Shiyu be ashamed?" Tong Bing glanced at Heshi with resentful eyes. "When I was in the magical beast forest, Shiyu's cultivation was clearly at the foundation establishment stage. Even if he advances, he would be at the meridian stage at best. But now, not only has she advanced to the gold core stage, but she can also completely suppress Nangong Xan at the nascent soul stage. But why can Shiyu not only seduce men, but he can also improve his cultivation so quickly? Why does God favor this man so much? Tong Bing hated Shiyu to the extreme, but he quickly covered up his emotions and looked angry. Shiyu, I have already heard from Third Master about you and Nangong Yu. Chapter 1505. His pleasure, people in the Nangong family don't want to recognize you at all. Haven't you thought that if Nangong Yu marries a man like you, he will be laughed at by the world and even expelled from the family? Tong Bing said angrily. Heshi raised her eyebrows and said with a sneer, the one who married me is Nangong Yu, not the Nangong family. What does it have to do with people from the Nangong family? What does it have to do with you, Nangong Xian's toy boy? You! Tong Bing's face under the mask twisted for a while. He said hatefully, Shiyu, do you think that if you marry into the King of Hell Mansion, you will really be able to ascend to the upper realm? You are simply dreaming. As long as the Nangong family doesn't accept you, you are nothing. What's the difference between you and a toy boy like me? Heshi picked out her ears, squinted at him contemptuously, and sneered, Excuse me, who said I'm going to marry into King of Hell Mansion? Maybe Nangong you will marry into my Shengda Hall? As soon as Heshi said this, everyone present burst into commotion instantly. Chen Dezhuang and the others laughed out loud. That's right, who is our Shiyu? He is a genius that Miracle Healer Academy has never seen since its establishment. Those who want to marry our Shiyu can line up from the city gate of Miracle Healer City to the other end. It is King of Hell Nangong Yu's honor to marry Shiyu. Jin Zhu also had a smile on his face. He waved his hand to make them stop beating Nangong Xen and smiled faintly. With the talent and appearance of King of Hell Nangong Yu, he is worthy of our Shiyu. Shiyu's die-hard fans at Huang Medical Branch took it for granted. However, the people from other branches went crazy after hearing that. My God? Let Nangong Yu marry into Shengda Hall, marry to Shiyu? What does this mean? Could it be that Nangong Yu is going to wear a phoenix coronet and official robes and sitting in a bride's sedan when marrying into Shengda Hall? Everyone's faces were distorted. This picture was so beautiful that people couldn't imagine it. Qing Wan, who was following behind Heshi, even twitched her mouth. Qing Wan had the same worry as Qing Long when she received news that her master was going to spread the news of his marriage with Miss to the entire Miluo continent. No one knows better than us that Master has not yet successfully proposed to Mississippi Master is so bold. If Miss gets angry, the consequences will be very serious. But I never expected that it will be such a consequence. Among the people in the surrounding, some had distorted faces, some were refraining themselves from laughing, and some were fantasizing. Qing Wan felt that her master's fame had been ruined in Miracle Healer Academy. When Nangong Xen got up from the ground, his already fat head was swollen like a pig's head. His clothes were messed up, his hair was messy, and his nose was bleeding. He looked even worse than a beggar. Shiyu great, just you wait. Since you want to take it the hard way, don't blame me for being rude. I'm going to inform my second brother and my mother right now what kind of slutty man Nangong Yu is going to marry. Let me tell you, what Nangong Yu listens to most is my mother's words. As long as my mother doesn't accept you, just wait to be rejected by Nangong Yu. You damn bastard. As soon as he finished cursing, Nangong Xen saw Heshi slowly raise the Li Shuai sword. He screamed and ran away in a panic. He didn't care about cursing anymore, and he didn't even bring Tong Bing with him. Chapter 1506. Changes in Kai Yu. Tong Bing was stunned for a moment. The sinister and resentful thoughts turned one by one in his mind, then he quickly followed Nangong Xen. Watching Tong Bing leave, Heshi slowly squinted her eyes. This back view is really indescribably familiar. Outside Spirit Extinct Valley. Zhang Chong anxiously walked around outside the barrier, checking the barrier from time to time for any movement. Dean Huang said impatiently, Zhang Chong, can you stop turning around? I'm already dizzy because of you before Kaiyu comes out. Zhang Chong scratched his head in embarrassment, trying to calm himself down. At this time, he and Dean Huang were waiting outside the Spirit Extinct Valley, waiting for Kaiyu to come out. For Zhang Chong, Kaiyu was his benefactor, the closest person in Miracle Healer Academy except his younger brother. Just like his older brother. He didn't feel regret when he exposed Kaiyu's framing of Shiyu, but he was always full of guilt for Kaiyu, who was thrown into Spirit Extinct Valley. Now, Lu Zhishi's true face was revealed. Kaiyu could finally be released. How could he not be excited? While waiting anxiously, suddenly, the barrier in front of him fluctuated. A figure slowly walked out of the barrier. Zhang Chong raised his head suddenly. His face was full of surprise and nervousness. However, when he saw the person coming, his expression suddenly froze, then his eyes slowly turned red. His expression was full of guilt and distress. The person who came out was naturally Kaiyu. Spirit Extinct Valley had a special enchantment. Except for those with Dean's permission, no one was allowed to go through the barrier for his entire lifetime. However, when Zhang Chong saw the person at first glance, he almost didn't recognize that it was Kaiyu. Because Kaiyu has changed too much. The original gentle temperament like a nobleman disappeared without a trace, replaced by indifference and gloom emanating from the inside out. His clothes were already in tatters, and his upper body was only wrapped in a shabby white singlet. His chest was bare, revealing a lot of horrific scars. There was no spiritual power in the Spirit Extinct Valley, so the wounds couldn't heal completely. Many scars would naturally be left over time. Brother Kai. Zhang Chonghong rushed over with red eyes and was about to hug Kaiyu. However, as soon as he touched Kaiyu's body, he was startled. He stared blankly at Kaiyu's arms. Although his two hands were still there, they seemed to be dry and shriveled. Looking closer, he could only feel two dead branches wrapped in the empty sleeves. Brother Kai, your hands... Kaiyu's expression was indifferent, as if it wasn't his hands that turned into dry branches. Oh, there are several demon slaughtering lands in Spirit Extinct Valley. I accidentally fell into one of them, then my hands withered. The voice that came out was hoarse and indifferent, as if what he was talking about was not his life or death, but a trivial matter. Zhang Chong's tears welled up all at once. He wanted to ask who was so cruel to actually push Kaiyu in, but thinking of the darkness and horror in Spirit Extinct Valley, he couldn't ask this question again. The people inside were all lunatics. They would even eat human flesh in order to survive. Dean Huang looked at Kaiyu's skinny hand and felt uncomfortable. He knew about the demon slaughtering land. The evil aura would devour human flesh and spiritual power. Kaiyu was lucky to just lose two hands after falling into the demon slaughtering land. However, the hands that had been devoured were equivalent to useless. Not to mention refining tools, even the usual cultivation was a problem. Chapter 1507. Feeling pity, thinking that Kaiyu, who was talent in forging, no longer had the hope, Dean Huang felt depressed for a while. If I had known earlier, I should have been more determined and not let Kaiyu take the blame for Lu Zhishi and be sent to Spirit Extinct Valley. Dean Huang took a step forward, patted Kaiyu's shoulder, and said in a hoarse voice, "It's good that you are out. I will find a way to solve your problem. If you don't object, you can come to my Hong medical branch. Even if you can't forge, you can also study runes with me. Besides, maybe there is a way to heal your hands." Right. Zhang Chong seemed to have thought of something, jumped up, grabbed Kaiyu, and said excitedly, "Let's go find Shiyu. He has such superb medical skills. He must be able to cure you. Isn't it just demon slaughtering land? Isn't it just your hands withering? Shiyu can even pull back people who are 1 foot stepping into hell." As Zhang Chong spoke, he was about to drag Kaiyu to the direction of Huang medical branch. However, after a few drags, Kaiyu didn't even move a step. Zhang Chong said nervously, "Brother Kai, are you afraid that Shiyu will still blame you? Don't worry, Shiyu is a good person. As long as you are willing to admit your mistakes sincerely, Shiyu will definitely be willing to treat you." Thinking of that amazingly talented young man, Kaiyu showed a complicated and guilty expression. He slowly shook his head. "No, now, I don't want to see Shiyu yet." The dirty things I did to frame you cannot be erased by just saying that I'm manipulated by others. Having done such shameless things before, how can I have the face to let you treat me now? Zhang Chong held Kai Yu's hand tightly and said in a sobbing tone, Brother Kai, do you still blame me for exposing you? If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be sent to Spirit Extinct Valley, and you wouldn't end up as such now. Kai Yu reached out and lightly pressed Zhang Chong's shoulder, interrupting his words. He showed a cold smile as he said, Zhang Chong, you don't have to feel guilty. I should thank you instead. If it weren't for you, I might still be used like a fool. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't see clearly how stupid I was before. When the three were talking, they suddenly heard Lu Zhishi's excited and affectionate voice not far away. Kai Yu, it's really you. You finally came out. I'm so worried about you. When they looked over, Lu Zhishi, wearing a low-cut white dress with snow gauze, was walking gracefully toward them. Her skin seemed to be white and transparent under the sun, and there were still slight tear stains on her face, which made people feel pity for her. Beside her were a few students from 4 upper courtyards. Watching Lu Zhishi cry, their eyes were full of fascination and pity. It seemed that as long as it could make her not cry, they were willing to take off the stars in the sky. If Heshi was here at this time, she would have found that the group of boys surrounding Lu Zhishi had deepened their fascination with Lu Zhishi by several times. Now they basically obeyed the words of Lu Zhishi. When Kai Yu saw the woman walking toward him with tears, his pupils constricted suddenly. His originally calm mood seemed to set off monstrous waves. When Kai Yu was exiled to the Spirit Extinct Valley, Kai Yu still hoped that Lu Zhishi would remember his affection for her and come to save him. But what waited in the end was a merciless murder. The person who pushed him into demon slaughtering land looked at him with a mocking face and told him condescendingly that Lu Zhishi didn't want him to live, so he had to die. Chapter 1508, Easy to be deceived. Kai Yu struggled desperately in demon slaughtering land, gave up both arms, swallowed the green bead that Dean Huang had given him, and finally escaped from danger. At that time, he still didn't believe that Lu Zhishi would be so ruthless to him. However, a few days later, he met the person who pushed him into demon slaughtering land again in Spirit Extinct Valley. The killer sent by Lu Zhishi couldn't leave Spirit Extinct Valley because he was holding a fake map. The map was changed by Xiao Li, so he yelled at Lu Zhishi. Kai Yu subdued him, tortured him to extract a confession, and finally learned all the truth about the matter. Lu Zhishi was really so ruthless and vicious that not only made him take the blame, but she even wanted to silence him forever. This is the woman I had loved deeply for 3 years and is willing to give everything for her. As soon as Zhang Chong saw Lu Zhishi, his expression immediately turned cold. He said with disgust, "What are you doing here? Do you want to harm Brother Kai even more?" Zhang Chong's unceremonious tone made Lu Zhishi's followers look angry. But Lu Zhishi stopped them from retorting. She looked at Kai Yu with tears in her eyes. Kai Yu, are you blaming me too? Do you also think just like them that I hurt you? Zhang Chong's face was full of anger, and he wanted to say something, but he was stopped by Kai Yu. Kai Yu walked slowly toward Lu Zhishi. Lu Zhishi felt proud for a moment. Seeing Kai Yu's wasted hands and his regressed cultivation, contempt appeared in her eyes again. If it was before, she wouldn't pay attention to a useless person like Kai Yu. But now that the Academy Student Council was firmly controlled by Jin Ziyu, her prestige in the Academy was almost certainly gone. Kai Yu urgently needed the influence that Kai Yu once served as an officer of the Academy Student Council to help her handle affairs. Fortunately, Kai Yu was just a dog that crawled completely under her feet, very easy to be deceived. As long as she hooked her fingers, he would obediently come over. However, unexpectedly, Kai Yu walked past her without even looking at her. Lu Zhishi felt a burst of resentment, and she quickly turned around and grabbed Kai Yu's sleeve. She clearly felt that when her hand touched Kai Yu's whole body was stiff. His eyes were closed tightly to avoid excitement, and emotions overflowed. Lu Zhishi knew right away that Kai Yu still had feelings for her, and she felt even more proud. She put up an aggrieved and sad expression on his face. Kai Yu, you don't even know how many ways I tried to save you after you were imprisoned in Spirit Extinct Valley. but Shiyu ruined all my attempts. Because you framed Shiyu, so he wants to put you to death? Seeing you like this now, you don't know how painful I'm. When Zhang Chong heard that she had framed Shiyu, he became furious immediately. He yelled at Lu Zhishi, "You black-hearted woman, you are the one who framed Brother Kai. Now you actually put the blame on Shiyu. How vicious can you be? Zhang Chong, keep your mouth clean." Hearing that Zhang Chong insulted Lu Zhishi, those loyalists who had been fascinated by Lu Zhishi's charm were outrageous. Don't think that Zhishi is kind-hearted, so you can humiliate her casually. Say one more sentence and don't blame me for being rude. Zhang Chong really didn't expect that after the real face of this bitch was exposed, someone would be deceived by her. He was about to attack, but he was stopped by Caillou. Chapter 1509. Mind-controlling pill. Caillou looked at Lu Zhishi with a painful face and said, "I don't blame you, but with my current state, I'm no longer worthy of standing by your side." Lu Zhishi laughed wildly in her heart after hearing that. At the same time, she despised Caillou, who looked like a waste to the extreme. But her face was still full of sincerity. She even stepped forward to hold Caillou's withered hands. "Caillou, you are so kind. I knew you will not blame me. However, because Miracle Healer Academy is now under the influence of Shiyu, I'm no longer the president of the Academy Student Council." Saying that, Lu Zhishi showed a lonely and sad look. "Caillou, you will still stand by my side and help me like before, won't you?" A deep coldness flashed in Caillou's eyes, but he said in a hoarse voice, "Of course." When Zhang Chong heard this, he was anxious. "Brother Kai, are you crazy? This woman has put you into such a miserable state, yet you still trust her and go back to help her? She is clearly using you. Don't be fooled by her." When Lu Zhishi heard the words, tears came to her eyes immediately. She murmured softly, "I know you all believe in Shiyu now. Zhang Chong, I don't blame you for betraying me and standing by Shiyu's side, but how can you say that I frame Caillou? Caillou, I specially obtained this precious muscle regan pill from my father. Although it cannot restore your cultivation and spells, your hands can recover as before. I'm willing to do so many things for you. How could I frame you?" The men beside Lu Zhishi immediately glared at Zhang Chong. If it was before, they would still be afraid that Zhang Chong was Shiyu's person and dare not say too much, but now they had been bewitched by Lu Zhishi and her voodoo temptation, obeying her command completely. Several people even drew their long swords and were about to attack Zhang Chong. The muscle regan pill was indeed very useful. As soon as he took it, his withered hands regained senses. Caillou gritted his teeth and pushed Zhang Chong away with a cold face. "Don't talk anymore. I went back with Zhishi on my own accord. I don't need to meddle in my matter. You should go back quickly." Zhang Chong was stunned for a moment. He murmured with widened eyes, "Caillou, what the mind-controlling pill did this woman feed you?" Dean Huang also lowered his face and looked at Caillou coldly. "Caillou, you'd better think clearly. If you return to Hong Medical Branch with me now, I will still treat you as my favorite disciple. One day, you will make some achievements in forging." But before he finished speaking, Lu Zhishi sneered, "Dean Huang doesn't have to worry. With the strength of our Doctors Association, I will arrange a better mentor for Caillou." "Yeah, how can a mere Hong Medical Branch be compared with our Pioneer Branch and Doctors Association?" A burst of laughter and sarcasm made Dean Huang's face turn green and pale. Because of Lu Shuyang and the Doctors Association's backing, now Lu Zhishi and her group were becoming more and more arrogant. They didn't even put the elders in their eyes. But because of Lu Shuyang, they could only let Lu Zhishi act arrogantly. Caillou closed his eyes, turned around, and bowed deeply to Dean Huang. "Thank you, Dean Huang, for your concern, but I still decided to stay at the Pioneer Branch and stay with Zhishi." A smug smile appeared on Lu Zhishi's face. Dean Huang was full of disappointment. He shook his head and said, "It's your choice." Chapter 1510. Angry after speaking, he left without taking another glance at Caillou. Zhang Chong was even more filled with resentment. He felt guilty toward Caillou before, but now he hated Caillou's stupid betrayal. In the end, he didn't say anything, just glanced at Lu Jishi and Kaiyu with a sneer, and left. Looking at the angry backs of the two, Kaiyu tightly clenched his fists by his side, then he closed his eyelids, hiding all the emotions in his eyes. When he was facing Lu Jishi, there was only pure admiration and flattery on his face, as if he was exactly the same as those men around Lu Jishi who were obsessed with her. Siam continent, Nangong family's courtyard. Yun Jingxue, dressed in red, pinched the inscribed jade slip she had just obtained in his hand with humiliation and anger on her face. She smashed the things on the table to the ground. "Miss, what's wrong? Why are you so angry?" The maid Lu Yun asked quickly. Yun Jingxue gritted her teeth and said, "Nangong Yu, how dares he do that? It's his honor that I'm willing to marry him. If he doesn't accept it, never mind, but he even announces to the entire Miluo continent that he wants to marry another woman as his wife. Such a blatant humiliation. How could I face people in Siam continent in the future? What? Young master of the Nangong family really dares to do this?" Lu Yun frowned. "Miss, could it be you who made a mistake? Or has he never seen you in person? My Miss talent and cultivation may not be the best in the Siam continent, but she is definitely one of the best in terms of appearance. When the disciples from ordinary families see Miss, their legs go limp. How can he be willing to refuse?" Speaking of this, Yun Jingxue became even more angry. This Nangong Yu clearly saw my true face in the Nebula Du mirror, yet he completely ignored me like I didn't exist. On the contrary, when Yun Jingxue saw Nangong Yu's perfect and handsome face, her heart beat nonstop. Her original reluctance turned into anticipation. Yun Jingxue said with a twisted face, "Look at the news in the inscribed jade slip yourself. Nangong Yu announced in Miluo continent that he is about to be engaged to Shiyu, a student of Miracle Healer Academy. They will be married immediately after the engagement. He knew I'm engaged to him. Isn't he humiliating me by this? Lowlife. He really is a trash from the lower realm just like his father." Back then, Nangong Outyun went crazy because the trash of the Yun family, Yun Charan, and now his son's taste is just as bad. Yun Jingxue was really mad. Since she advanced to the gold core stage and appeared in the Siam continent, she had always been sought after. How could she be reconciled to being slapped in the face mercilessly by a person from the lower realm? Lu Yun read the inscribed jade slip, but she immediately frowned. Who is this Shiyu? Has Miss sent someone to investigate? Could it be that Nangong Yu is crazy or stupid? He didn't marry the talented girl from the upper realm, but he chooses a trash from the lower realm. I don't care what she is. Yun Jingxue said viciously with fire in her eyes, Nangong Yu, he dares to humiliate me like this, I will definitely make him pay a heavy price. Miss, you can't. Lu Yun's face darkened. She held Yun Jingxue's hand and said slowly, Miss, have you forgotten Valley Master's order? You must marry Nangong Yu. As soon as the Valley Master was mentioned, the anger on Yun Jingxue's face froze, then her expression turned into fear. She bit her lip and said, You also saw that it was Nangong Yu who refused to marry me. Valley Master? Valley won't let me pursue him instead, right? Chapter 15:11. Crazy Lu Yun blinked, and a deep light flashed from her eyes. Did you forget, miss? You still have the old lady on your side. Nangong Yu listens to the old lady's words the most. As long as you please the old lady well, tell her your deep affection for Nangong Yu, and analyze the pros and cons of marrying a lowly person, I believe the old lady must understand who is the best candidate for the granddaughter-in-law of the Nangong family. Yun Jingxue rolled her eyes and revealed a sneer. Lu Yun, change my clothes right away. I'm going to see the old lady. At the same time, Nangong Hua also received news about Nangong Yu's marriage from the lower realm. But he received not only the news that Nangong Yu was going to marry Shiyu, but also a secret letter from Nangong Xian. Originally, after hearing that Nangong Yu dared to disobey him and directly announce the marriage news, Nangong Hua was still full of anger, but when he saw the secret letter that Nangong Xian asked Zheng Luo to send, he looked astonished, then he laughed frantically. Is what third brother said true? Nan Gonghua looked at Jing Luo with shining eyes. My good nephew, is he really crazy now? He actually wants to marry a man as his wife. A mocking smile flashed across Jing Luo's eyes. He nodded meaningfully and said, I saw Shiyu at Miracle Healer Academy with my own eyes. He is really a beautiful young man with an extraordinary demeanor. When the third master saw him, he couldn't even move. I think, master, you must have been seduced in the same way. Ha! Nan Gonghua laughed again, feeling that the depression in his heart all the years had disappeared at this moment. Nan Gong Outyin, I didn't expect you to have such a day. So what if you are talented, brave and invincible? The son you gave birth to is gay. It's fine to hook up with a toy boy, but he even wants to marry a man. Ha! I wonder how you will feel after knowing that you Nan Gong Outyin will have no offspring. After Nan Gonghua had a good laugh for a while, Jing Luo reminded, Patriarch, don't forget. We have an agreement with the master of Thousand Poison Valley. No matter what, we still have to marry Miss Yun to Nan Gongyu. Nan Gonghua suppressed his smile and said with a sinister smile, You're right. I don't care if he loves men or not, but he must marry Yun Jingxue as his wife. Otherwise, our Nan Gong family will be in a difficult situation. I didn't know how to stop him from marrying a person from the lower realm before, but now I don't have to worry about it. It's fine for a man to play around. I don't believe that he can really marry a man. Even if I agree, my old mother will not agree. Thinking of this, Nan Gonghua also brought news and evidence to old lady Nangong's room. When Nan Gonghua rushed to the door of the old woman's room, he heard Yun Jingshue's weeping sound from inside the room. Old lady, ever since I found out about the engagement with cousin Yu, I have been thinking for brother Yu and waiting for brother Yu to marry Jingxue. Who in Siam continent doesn't know that I'm the future granddaughter-in-law of the Nangong family, but who knows what I got was the news that brother Yu is going to marry another woman. Woo, old lady, how can Jingxue still stay in Siam continent after being abandoned like this? I might as well die. Upon hearing this, Nan Gonghua immediately opened the door and went in. He saw old lady Nangong look at Yun Jingxue with distress. She kept comforting her, Jingxue, maybe there is some misunderstanding about this matter. Why didn't you discuss it with me before he decides to marry a woman from the lower realm? Chapter 15:12. Absurd, what woman? Nan Gonghua interrupted old lady Nangong all of a sudden, and he sneered, Mother, you made a mistake. The person Nangong you wants to marry is not a woman, but a real man. The toy boy. What? Two exclamations sounded in unison. Yun Jingxue couldn't believe her ears. What is Nan Gonghua saying? What does it mean that he is not marrying a woman, but a real man? Nan Gongyu is going to marry a man? Is he crazy? Old lady Nangong also had a frosty face, and she said coldly, Don't talk nonsense, Yuer will have a limit to his nonsense. How could he marry a man as his wife? Nan Gonghua knew that they didn't believe it, and he immediately took out a picture scroll with a sneer. This was painted by Jing Luo just based on his impression. Jing Luo not only had superb strength, but he was also a very skilled painter. The picture scroll was spread out. What was painted on it was a handsome young man. Just looking at his exquisite facial features and awe-inspiring temperament, he was even more than Yun Jingxue. According to Jing Luo, his paintings haven't yet depicted 50% of his beauty. However, no matter how beautiful he was still a man. Old lady Nangong trembled and said, This is the person Yuer is going to marry? Nan Gonghua smiled gloatingly. I heard that everyone in Miluo continent knows about it now. This kid named Shiyu is quite famous. Now people in the lower realm are laughing at Nan Gongyu for marrying a man as his wife. Absurd. Old lady Nangong slapped the table hard. The teacups on the table crackled and jumped, making a piercing knocking sound. Old lady Nangong's face was full of anger. She gritted her teeth. What is Yuer thinking? He is the eldest son of our Nangong family, and he is so outstanding. How can he marry a man as his wife? I absolutely disagree. Yun Jingxue and Lu Yun looked at each other. They both saw the mocking smile in each other's eyes. Yun Jingxue took old lady Nangong's hand and said sadly, "Old lady, the most urgent task now is to prevent cousin Yu from marrying a man. Cousin Yu listens to old lady Nangong the most. I believe you can dissuade him. Cousin Yu will definitely listen. What's more, how could cousin Yu really like a man? It must be cousin Yu who is seduced by this shameless fox. As long as we expose the true face of that shameless toy boy, cousin Yu will definitely change his mind." Yes. Nangong Hua also smiled at the right time. Yu is just too young and impulsive. When he sees someone who is pretty, he doesn't care whether the person is male or female. In my opinion, Jingxue doesn't look any worse than that toy boy at all. I believe that Yu will be attracted by Jingxue if he sees her. Old lady Nangong also showed a smile on her face, patted Yun Jingshue's hand, and said, "Yes, Jingxue, don't worry. You are the only daughter-in-law of our Nangong family. We will go to Miluo continent now, and I will definitely make Yu marry you as soon as possible." "Old lady," Yun Jingxue called out affectionately, nestling in old lady Nangong's arms. Her face flushed, but a fierce dark light flashed in her eyes. "Nangong Yu, this bastard wants a man and doesn't want me. He let me Yun Jingxue become the laughing stock of the Siam continent, and I still have to deliver myself to him. That bitch Shiyu too. He just can't do anything else than a toy boy. I will remember the humiliation these two people gave me. I will definitely pay it back." Chapter 1513. I Want to Be Dowry. Nangong Hua also showed a smile. As long as Nangong Yu could marry Yun Jingxue. No, even if he doesn't marry, as long as I find a way to make Nangong Yu and Yun Jingxue have a relationship, I can get the benefits promised by Lu Wushuang. Although the Valley Master of Thousand Poison Valley is nothing, there is Lu family behind Lu Wushuang. As long as we can affiliate with the big Lu family, our Nangong family will soon prosper. If one asked, what was the most widely circulated event in Miluo continent during this period, all the martial artists would tell him that King of Hell Nangong Yu was getting married to Shengda Hall's young master Shiyu. Because of this news, the entire continent was almost boiling. Not to mention that this shocking marriage was the most talked about every day in Jinling Kingdom. Even Nangong Yu's admirers protested angrily every day in Shengda Hall. If Nangong Yu married a woman, maybe they would give up after being unwilling. But Nangong Yu actually wanted to marry a man. How could they be reconciled? They actually lost to a man? However, after a while, another version of the news spread from Miracle Healer City. I heard that it's not Shiyu marrying into the King of Hell Mansion, but King of Hell Nangong Yu is going to marry into Shengda Hall. Just kidding, that's King of Hell Nangong Yu, Miluo continent's #1 powerhouse. How could King of Hell marry him? Tisi, you were saying like Shiyu is not worthy? The best quality pills produced by Shengda Hall are all provided by Shiyu. Don't buy it if you are good. What's more, I heard that Shiyu has advanced from the foundation establishment stage to the gold core stage in just 1 year. Your Highness King of Hell wasn't that powerful back then, was he? There was an uproar in the main cities, but the direction of the opposition and quarrel seemed totally deviated. There was even a gamble on boundless black market, betting on who would marry to who. In King of Hell Mansion, several of Nangong Yu's subordinates were ashen-faced. Wu Go even said angrily, "How can these people slander the reputation of master like this?" Qin Long put his hand on his forehead and thought secretly, "I knew master's announcement of the marriage news without asking will have bad results, but I didn't expect such a weird development." Nangong Yu, who was sitting at the top, shook his head lightly. The smile on his face was full of helplessness and indulgence. Wu Xen said cautiously, "Master, do you need us to clarify the rumors?" Nangong Yu pursed his lips and said with a smile, "No, people in the world can say whatever they want, so what does it matter to me? If Xia really wants me to marry her, then why not?" Wu Chen and Wu Go, who didn't know the truth, froze when they heard the words. The corners of Wu Xian and Qing Long's mouths twitched. "Master, you know that Miss Shiyu is a girl. Please stop playing with Miluo continent like this. Everyone is innocent." Only Wu Yu, a foodie, immediately jumped up excitedly when he heard it. "Master, I want to be the dowry. Nangong Yu kicked him away and said with a faint smile, you guys are starting to prepare for the wedding. Remember to discuss with Gu Lufeng and Shi Jia about the bride price and wedding banquet. I'll go to Miracle Healer Academy first. However, Heshi, who was at the eye of the storm, had always been calm. She ate and slept as usual. Every day she digested the materials in the Miracle Healer Academy library bit by bit. If she had any questions, she would ask the elders. Although many students in the school feel ashamed that Shi Yu, a man, wanted to marry King of Hell Nangong Yu, who was also a man, but no one was stupid enough to be the unlucky one. Chapter 15-14. Confused, even Lu Jishi, who hated Heshi the most, once again sneered and slandered at Heshi, then she was severely punished by Heshi. Since then she no longer dared to act presumptuously in public. Miracle Healer Academy had always respected the strength. Even after Zheng Shoyue heard that Shi Yu would not like girls, he persuaded her earnestly, you must let Nangong Yu marry to you. How can I allow my best disciple to be snatched away so easily? This made Heshi really dumbfounded. When she said she would marry Nangong Yu back that day, she really just said it casually, purely to shut the mouth of Nangong Xin and his toy boy. Unexpectedly, under the public opinion created by Jin Ziyu and Wei Qingyuan, the whole Miluo continent was now discussing her marriage with Nangong Yu. Thinking of Nangong Yu's expression after hearing this argument, Heshi couldn't help laughing. By the time she got back to the dormitory, it was already dark. Xianmu was already lying quietly on the bed, seemingly asleep. When Heshi was about to get into bed, Xianmu sat up on the bed and looked at him solemnly. The light in his eyes was flickering. Heshi touched her face, wondering, what's wrong? Is there something on my face? I heard the news about you and Nangong Yu. Cough, Heshi almost choked on her own saliva. I'm not surprised if anyone gossips, but this is Xianmu, the high-cold Xianmu who has never bothered about others' matters. Is he trying to get the news from me? Heshi took out a glass of diluted spirit spring water from the void, took a sip to suppress her shock, and said awkwardly, oh. Xianmu frowned. He's a man, not suitable for you. The corner of Heshi's mouth twitched. As expected, one lie will be followed by countless lies. How should I answer? Say that I just like men? Or women are not suitable for me? Or else just say that I'm gay? Wait, I'm obviously a woman. Heshi felt confused. Xianmu jumped off the bed, slowly approached Heshi, and stared at her deeply. Have you decided on this person? You won't regret it? Heshi really wanted to say, you are being too controlling. But Xianmu's expression was too serious that she couldn't just casually brush him off. She swallowed, then she nodded. From the moment I choose Nangong Yu, I will not regret it. I will not give myself a chance to regret it. Xianmu was slightly taken aback. His expression became distant and dazed. After a long time, he took a step back. His expression returned to his usual indifference. Okay, I understand. Before Heshi could speak, Xianmu said again, congratulations. Thank you. Heshi continued to answer awkwardly. Why is Xianmu so strange today? Qingwan just came back with Heshi's crystal stone for this month. As soon as she entered the door and saw Xianmu leaning so close to her princess, she burst into anger. Hey, what are you doing? Stay away from our young master. Xianmu ignored Qingwan, returned to his bed, and said slowly with a cold voice, be careful of the people of Nangong family. They are now the pawns of the Lu family. The Lu family? Heshi frowned. Suddenly, she remembered Ouyang Haoshuan's investigation results. The valley master of the Thousand Poison Valley was called Lu Wushuang. Chapter 15-15. Sympathy Miracle Healer Academy, Mojing Pavilion. Nangong Xin was pressing on Tong Bing's naked body to vent his anger. The gasping, moaning, and crying sound reverberated in the room from time to time. Nangong Xin pressed Tong Bing, but that unparalleled face seemed to appear in front of her eyes. The lust in his eyes turned into blazing flames. That beautiful young man, if he is the one under me, if I can get him. Thinking of how cold and ruthless she was when he beat him, Nangong Exen was resentful and unwilling. But at the same time, his heart became more burning and longing, almost as if he was going crazy to get this person. When Nangong Exen was excited, he grabbed Tong Bing's hair and tortured the boy under him ruthlessly. Even though Tong Bing was in so much pain that he kept begging for mercy, and his body was covered with bruises, Nangong Exen didn't care. Instead, he tortured Tong Bing more and more cruelly. After a long time, Nangong Exen finally stopped. Suddenly, a guard's anxious voice came from the door. "Master, someone is here." Nangong Exen frowned. He was about to scold the guard for disturbing him. The closed door was knocked open with a bang. The disgusting smell made the person who barged in frown in disgust. Nangong Exen wanted to yell at him, but when he saw the person clearly, he was so frightened that he jumped off the bed. He didn't even have time to put on his clothes. The person standing at the door turned out to be his second brother, Nangong Hua, the master of the Nangong family. Standing behind Nangong Hua was his mother, the old lady of the Nangong family, and Yun Jingxue, who was supporting her. Nangong Hua looked at his younger brother, who was hurriedly grabbing his clothes to cover up his fat and unsightly body, and the disgust in his eyes was even greater. "Get dressed and get out." As he spoke, he glanced at Tong Bing, who was covered in bruises on the bed, as if looking at a trash. Nangong Exen dared to be arrogant to others, but he didn't dare to do the same in front of his second brother. As soon as Nangong Hua left, he quickly put on his clothes and hurriedly followed. Tong Bing waited for Nangong Exen to go out before he frowned, got up and used spiritual power to heal his body. But his spiritual power was weak. The wounds on his body tortured by Nangong Exen were too deep. It was so painful that he couldn't stop taking quick breaths. The guard felt pity seeing his weak body and childish face. He couldn't help but stepped forward and said, "You can't do this. I have some wound medicine here." As he spoke, he took the wound medicine from his storage bag and handed it over. Tears fell from Tong Bing's eyes. His face was indescribably pitiful and pathetic. He begged in a hoarse voice, "My wounds hurt so much. Can you please use spiritual power to heal me?" Spiritual power could relieve pain, so the guard didn't think too much and immediately channeled spiritual power to slowly caress the hideous wounds on the young man's body. When the spiritual power touched Tong Bing's dantian, Tong Bing's eyes showed a glimpse of murderous intent. The dagger he held in his hand mercilessly pierced into the guard's chest. Then he activated the devouring power. The devouring power could only be used on people who were willing or had no resistance. It was useless to people whose strength was stronger than him. Tong Bing waited for more than half a month, maintaining a weak and harmless appearance, to win the sympathy of the people around him, just for this moment. Chapter 15-16. Same person? A moment later, the guard who had been sucked dry fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. Tong Bing glanced at it with a sneer and put the corpse into the storage ring that Nangong Exen gave him. There were many guards around Nangong Exen, so he wouldn't care if a guard was missing. The wound on Tong Bing's body healed completely at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his skin became tight and smooth again. Tong Bing wore his clothes, put up an innocent and weak expression again, and walked toward the room where Nangong Exen and Nangong Hua used for discussion. In the conference hall, Nangong Exen was talking about what happened after meeting Shiyu. He looked infuriated, then there was a glimpse of greed and lust, making that fat face distorted and trembling from time to time. Nangong Hua knew his younger brother best. By looking at his expression, he could tell that Nangong Exen had ill intentions against the young man named Shiyu. He felt disgusted instantly. "There are so many women, yet you just prefer men." Nangong Hua had always looked down on this younger brother, but he didn't expect that his nephew, known as the most talented person in the Nangong family, would also have such a bad habit. At this moment, the door of the room was suddenly pushed open carefully, revealing the head of a handsome young man with nervousness and fear. Nangong Hua and the others recognized at a glance that this young man was the toy boy who rolled the bed with Nangong Exen just now. Nangong Hua hated this kind of people the most, and he immediately said coldly, "Third brother, you really are getting more and more carefree. How can you let this lowly thing wander around? He even dares to come here. Because of his high cultivation and the fact that this was the lower realm, Nan Gonghua never thought of letting the guards guard outside. He didn't expect Tong Bing to come in on his own. Even old lady Nangong, who had always maintained a kind and worried face, frowned with deep disgust in her eyes. Yun Jingxue raised her eyebrows in anger and swung the whip fiercely at Tong Bing. Scum, who let you in? You tired of living? Tong Bing's flesh was ruptured by the whip, and he rolled all over the floor in pain. However, instead of rolling outside, he rolled into the house. He screamed while crying, "Third Master, help me, help me. I just want to help you. You know that I'm the one who knows Shiyu and King of His Majesty Hell the best. Please help." As soon as Tong Bing said this, before Nangong Xian asked for pardon for him, Nangong Hua had already narrowed his eyes and raised his hand to stop Yun Jingxue. He walked over slowly, looking condescendingly at Tong Bing lying on the ground covered in whip marks and ragged clothes. "You know Shiyu and Nangong Yu?" Tong Bing was sobbing and shrinking his body with a pure and harmless appearance. "I used to study at Miracle Healer Academy. Shiyu, he is the same person as me. I lived with him in the same dormitory once, so I saw him hooking up with His Royal Highness King of Hell and even other men." Yun Jingxue showed a disgusted expression. She said with a distorted face, "A person like you? So he is really a toy boy that anyone can play with?" Thinking of the scene where Nangong Xian pressed Tong Bing just now, Yun Jingxue was so disgusted that she was about to vomit. Tong Bing's eyes were crying with a pale and pitiful face, but he didn't say anything. Chapter 15-17. You have a way? Yun Jingxue was getting more and more disgusted by him. She returned to old lady Nangong and said coquettishly, "Old lady, the lower realm is the lower realm. I didn't expect so many men to be willing to degrade themselves as toy boys. I think cousin you become like this because of the bad influence of Miluo continent. We should bring cousin you back to Siam continent as soon as possible." Old lady Nangong was also frowning tightly. She said with a cold face, "Jingxue is right, we will take Yuer back immediately. We must not let him marry such a thing. Let Yuer marry Jingxue when we go back and stay away from places like Miluo continent in the future." A dark light flashed in Tong Bing's eyes. His eyelashes drooped low, hiding his true emotions. It turns out that Yun Jingxue is Nangong Yu's fiancé. Hee, I wonder what will happen to Shiyu if she were to face him? Nangong Hua sneered and said, "Jingxue, don't worry. Shiyu is just an ant after all. We will crush him to death if we want to. Tomorrow I will let Jingluo get rid of him. I don't believe that Nangong Yu will go against me because of a toy boy. Wouldn't it be too cheap to let Shiyu die like this? Besides, I haven't gotten Shiyu's wood spiritual root yet." Tong Bing blinked and said with fear, "No, you can't kill Shiyu like this." Yun Jingxue suddenly glared at him. "Know your place. Who let you speak?" With red eyes, Tong Bing crawled to Nangong Xian's side and sobbed. "Binger of course is not qualified to speak, but Third Master has saved Binger's life. Binger has to repay it, so I have to tell what I know even if you kill me." During the time Shiyu was at Miracle Healer Academy, he not only hooked up His Royal Highness King of Hell, but he also fascinated many powerful men. If you kill Shiyu directly, not only His Royal Highness King of Hell will be angry, but it will also affect his relationship with Miss Yun. Even those men who are hooked up by Shiyu will not let it go easily. Among those men, there is one named Xian Mu, whose cultivation should have surpassed the nascent soul stage. Nangong Hua's pupils shrank suddenly. His expression remained uncertain. "Xianmu? There is no such person in Siam, but his cultivation has surpassed the nascent soul stage and his surname is Xian. This somehow makes me uneasy. Who is this Shiyu? A mere man can really seduce so many people? Or is this toy boy lying to them? But if it's true, wouldn't it not worth to trigger my nephew and provoke a powerful enemy just for Shiyu?" Seeing Nangong Hua's expression, Tong Bing knew that he was shaken. There was a glimpse of ridicule in his eyes. His face looked even weaker and more innocent. He said with genuine concern for the Nangong family, "If you want to deal with Shiyu, unless you let His Highness the King of Hell and those men whom he hooks up with see his face clearly. Otherwise, even you kill Shiyu, it will only backfire. Nan Gonghua glared at Tong Bing with a squint. You have a way? Tong Bing bit his lip. Teardrops were still on his pretty face, looking pitiful. He said softly, Shiyu is domineering in Miracle Healer Academy. Binger is not the only one who is persecuted by him, but also there are many people who hate him to his core. As long as we unite with those people and find a way to expose Shiyu's true face to others, I believe His Highness King of Hell will no longer treat him as a treasure. He will only abandon him like a worn-out shoe. Chapter 15:18. Teach a lesson. At that time, if Ms. Yun wants to kill or torture him, I believe His Royal Highness King of Hell will not stop you. He will even thank Ms. Yun for letting him know his way back. When Yun Jingxue heard that, she snorted with an uncertain expression in his eyes. You better mean what you say. Tong Bing shrugged his shoulders, leaned against Nangong Exen, and said in a low voice, Binger did this not only to avenge Shiyu's persecution of me, but also to repay Third Master's life-saving grace. If Third Master is willing trust Binger, let Binger arrange everything. Nangong Exen was flattered by Tong Bing's eyes full of gratitude and admiration. He smiled at Nangong Hua and said, Second brother, my toy boy still has some brains. Why don't you let him try? You also know how hot-tempered Nangong Yu is. If you really kill Shiyu directly, not only will she not marry Jingxue, but he will directly break the ties with our Nangong family. Old Lady Nangong also thought of this possibility. She lowered her brows slightly and said in a deep voice, Old Third is right, we must not let Yuer be separated from us. Let Old Third's people try it. A crazy smile flashed across Tong Bing's eyes. He lowered his eyebrows, trying to suppress the impulse to laugh wildly. Shiyu, just wait for your reputation to be ruined. As for Lu Jishi, it's time to contact her and ask her to contribute to Shiyu's fall. Tong Bing's suggestion made Nangong Hua finally decide not to kill Shiyu. However, Yun Jingxue couldn't accept it. She was a majestic young miss from the Yun family and a talented girl from the upper realm, but she still had to be afraid of a toy boy from the lower realm? If this kind of thing gets out, how can I have the face to see people? When Tong Bing learned that Yun Jingxue wanted to teach Shiyu a lesson, instead of stopping her, he added fuel to the fire. Miss Yun, although you can't kill Shiyu directly, you should teach him a lesson. You should let everyone in the Miracle Healer Academy knows who is His Highness King of Hell's real fiancé. Yun Jingxue's face was full of pride when she heard the words. Then she took Lu Yun with her and headed toward the Huang medical branch pointed by Tong Bing. Tong Bing looked at her back and cursed in a low voice, Idiot. However, this idiot is just right to attract Xieyu's attention, making him unaware of my arrangement. Moreover, Yun Jingxue's strength was very high, several times stronger than Nangong Xian's, plus there are many powerful guards around her. I don't believe that Shiyu can escape this time. Yun Jingxue looked at the young man walking on the tree-shaded road not far away, and she couldn't believe her eyes. No matter which city in Siam continent she was in, she never saw anyone more beautiful than her. Every man can't move his eyes when seeing her. But she didn't expect that she would see a man more beautiful than her. Compared with Shiyu's alluring demeanor, her beauty could only be regarded as gaudy at best. Yun Jingxue stared fixedly at Shiyu's face. Even though it was a man in front of her, she wished she could rush over and scratch this face immediately. You're Shiyu? That scum who seduces cousin Yu. She was on her way to the library, then she suddenly felt a malicious gaze. However, she had been used to being stared at by people because of the wedding news, so she wasn't bothered by her at all. Unexpectedly, this person suddenly rushed in front of her. Chapter 15:19. Fiancé? She squinted at the person coming. This was a very glamorous girl. She was only 17 years old, but her cultivation had already reached the peak of the nascent soul stage. As Yun Jingxue approached, she found that the young man in front of him had skin that was more beautiful than snow. His appearance was also peerless. The fire of jealousy in her heart was burning. She raised her hand and slapped toward Heshi's face fiercely. Heshi swayed slightly and easily avoided the slap, but a dangerous light shone from her eyes. "Who are you? Want to fight? I'm ready for it." Because of the noise here, many people were attracted. Yun Jingxue didn't expect that Heshi could dodge her slap, which made her even angrier. She gritted her teeth and said, "Let me tell you, I'm Nangong Yu's fiancé. You shameless toy boy, don't think that you can marry into the Nangong family by just spreading some news. I don't care what kind of relationship you had with cousin Yu before, but from now on, you'd better disappear on your own. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Heshi frowned, and she slowly repeated, "Fiancé?" When it came to fiancé, she thought of Feng Lianying, and her mood turned bad instantly. This guy Nangong Yu really has a lot of bad entanglement. The students of Miracle Healer Academy who were watching were also whispering in amazement. Shi Yu had absolute authority in Miracle Healer Academy, but it didn't mean that everyone had no opinion on marriage between men. Deep down in many people's hearts, they were still ashamed of Shi Yu's behavior of marrying man. Now that they heard Nangong Yu even had a fiancé, and that the fiancé had come to her, the puzzlement and disappointment of these people turned into anger and contempt. Qing Wan, who was following Heshi, trembled with anger when she heard these words. Seeing Heshi's downcast face, she thought she really believed it. Qing Wan immediately pointed at Yun Jingxue and scolded, "You nonsense. Since when did our master have a fiancé? Even if he did, it will only be our prin, our young master. What fiancé? I think you just want to marry our master on your own right." As Qing Wan said that, she also took out a red natal pendant, on which the phoenix pattern shone. "I'm Ju Kei, one of King of Hell's confidants. I'm following young master under my master's command. How about you? How dare you say that you are master's fiancé? Do you even have a token from master? What are you? Dare to talk to my lady like that?" Lu Yun was stunned. She launched a green belt toward Qing Wan. The originally soft belt turned into a sharp blade and pierced toward Qing Wan's chest. Although Lu Yun looked ordinary, her strength was not much lower than that of Yun Jingxue. Qing Wan was no more than the gold core stage, so there was no way she could resist it. With a sound, the sharp blade transformed from the green belt, cut off Qing Wan's long sword and stabbed toward her chest. At the critical moment, Heshi grabbed across the distance. Qing Wan was dragged back several steps by her, narrowly avoiding the attack. The green belt turned toward Heshi. Heshi sneered, and Li Shui's sword suddenly appeared out of thin air and went toward the whistling green belt. There was a loud impact. The green belt shook violently, making sizzling, tearing sounds as if it couldn't bear the impact. Lu Yun was astounded. Her magic weapon was slashed into several pieces, becoming a pile of trash. Chapter 1520, Picked the Wrong Person? You actually ruined my magic weapon. Heshi looked at Lu Yun and Yun Jingxue coldly and said with a sneer, "Enough nonsense? Either fight or leave." Yun Jingxue was frightened by Heshi's casual strike. Before she came here, she didn't pay much attention to this toy boy from the lower realm. However, even Yun Jingxue herself wasn't sure of blocking Lu Yun's strike, but Shiyu easily resisted the strike and even destroyed her magic weapon. "Who is this Shiyu?" Yun Jingxue's face turned pale and red. She gritted her teeth after a long while and said, "You shameless toy boy. Let me tell you, cousin Yu and I are engaged. I'm his legitimate fiancé. No matter how much you pester cousin Yu, you won't end well." The coldness in Hishi's eyes gradually turned into violent impatience. Her smile was cold and fierce. "It seems that you are planning to fight. Very well. It just happens that I'm getting quite irritated recently." The light of Li Shui's sword soared, and the terrified aura erupted from Heshi. The students of Miracle Healer Academy, who were still chattering, were so frightened by the powerful spirit pressure that their legs trembled. They all screamed and scattered. After returning from the magical beast forest, Heshi had been restraining her edge, keeping a low profile and showing no sense of presence, so they almost forgot what kind of power this most terrifying genius since the establishment of Miracle Healer Academy had. And Heshi was indeed infuriated. Although she had always been not interested in other people's foul words, and she didn't bother to pay attention to it. However, again and again, people came to provoke her with their mouths as dirty as shit. They scolded her every day that she was not worthy of Nangongyu and told her not to pester Nangongyu. How could she still have a good mood? I don't go mad. You really think I'm a weakling? You have an opinion. Why don't you go to Nangongyu who announced the marriage news? All of you come to trigger me one by one. Do you think I'm easy to be controlled? Hee, I'll show you guys the consequences of picking the wrong person. After 15 minutes, the people of the Miracle Healer Academy were already crowded there. However, so many people were silenced by the fearsome scene. Even the students of Huang Medical Branch couldn't help swallowing from time to time. Xiu is so scary, too scary. Yun Jingxue couldn't help crying. Tears and snot were hanging on her bruised and swollen face. The clothes on her body were tattered. Sei kept rolling on the ground in order to escape Shiyu's attack. Wu, help me, you bunch of trash. Help me now. Stop, please stop. The 3 bodyguards brought by Yun Jingxue, including Lu Yun, were all nascent soul stage, but now they were all beaten to the ground by Shiyu. They didn't know what method Shiyu used. As long as they were hurt by Shiyu's sword, they would immediately become limp and unable to move. Their Danshuns obviously had powerful spiritual power, but they couldn't exert it at all. So, the majestic nascent soul stage experts, under the watchful eyes of everyone, were beaten up by a gold core stage young man. And Yun Jingxue, who was beaten the most, was going crazy. In her life, she had never been humiliated like this. Shiyu, just you wait. I won't let you go. You'll have a miserable end. A cold light flashed in Hishi's eyes, and she sneered, "Oh, are you reminding me to get rid of the root before the weed grows?" Chapter 1521. Just come. As soon as she said that, the red and blue Li Shui sword soared into the sky with an ear-piercing whistling sound. Then it slashed fiercely toward Yun Jingshue's vital point. Yun Jingshue's face was full of horror. She closed his eyes and let out a hysterical scream. "Stop! How dare you hurt Jingxue?" A sharp shout came from not far away, then a black light flashed. Heshi felt the Li Shui sword hanging in the air receive a powerful impact, making a clang. The powerful attack receded like a tide. The light and shadow of Li Shui's sword disappeared. It turned and returned to Heshi's hand. Not far away, a few powerful men came forward slowly, staring at Heshi with a sharp gaze. As soon as Yun Jingxue saw someone coming, she rushed over while crying, "Uncle Hua, you must stand up for Jingxue. This Shiyu, this scum, how dare he humiliates me like this. If he doesn't die, Jingxue doesn't want to live either." The people who came were Nangong Hua, Zheng Luo and his subordinates. Seeing these people, Heshi's heart shuddered. Her expression immediately became a little dignified. These few men who appeared suddenly were all above the nascent soul later stage. Nangong Hua and Zheng Luo had one even reached the soul-splitting stage. Nangong Hua stared deeply at the young man in front with a trace of amazement in his eyes, then he glanced at Yun Jingxue and her subordinates who were beaten terribly. The amazement turned into deep fear and shock. "I always thought that Shiyu is just a beautiful young man, and Nangongyu is just bewitched by him. But now it seems that the truth might not be so simple. A young man who lives in the lower realms and is only at the gold core stage can actually beat 5 nascent soul stage experts. With such talent and strength, if he is given a chance to grow up, he might become another Nangongyu. Could this be the reason why Nangongyu wants to marry him? He wants to train this young man so that he can secretly regain the power of Nangong family?" Nangong Hua's heart trembled. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. "What are you? You're just an ant from the lower realm, and you dare to hurt the people of my Nangong family. I will give you 2 choices. Either you cut off your own arms or you die here." As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. People from Huang Medical Branch had already sneaked away to seek help from the elders of Miracle Healer Academy. The other people looked at Heshi with pity and helplessness. No matter how strong Shiyu was, how could she compete with the people from the upper realm? What was more, the strength of these martial artists was so unfathomable. However, Heshi didn't even change her expression. Instead of fear, her eyes were burning with flames. What are you? If you want to fight, just come. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Nangong Hua only felt that his breath was stuck in his throat. He was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Since he became the family master, except for Nangong Yu's unfilial nephew, no one dared to talk to him like that. Killing intent leaked from his eyes. Nangong Hua waved his hand to Zheng Luo, who was behind him, and said in a deep voice, "Teach him a lesson. As long as you don't kill him, do whatever you can. Best to cripple him." "Yes, family master." A bloodthirsty light flashed in Zheng Luo's eyes. A huge hammer suddenly appeared in his hand as he walked toward Heshi with a sneer. That hammer seemed to be an ordinary weapon that those low-rank martial artists who relied purely on strength would use it. Chapter 1522. Counterattack. However, when Zheng Luo held it up, all the onlookers felt a cold, bloody aura blowing toward their faces. Zheng Luo was already at the soul-splitting stage. Although he had just advanced not long ago, why would he take a gold core stage small character like Shiyu seriously? A chain was connected to the handle of the hammer, making cracking sounds. Zheng Luo waved his hand lightly, and the hammer spun like a fan in midair. As it spun, dazzling lightning coiled around the hammer, making thunderous sounds. When Zheng Shouyue, Li Qingquan, and other elders arrived, what they saw was the meteor hammer whistling toward Shiyu. At this time, the shadow of the hammer had covered the sun above Shiyu's head, making Shiyu look so weak and small. Zheng Shouyue let out an angry and shrill exclamation, "Stop!" However, it was too late. The shadow of the hammer and the thunder were about to tear Shiyu into pieces the next moment. Many Huang Medical Branch students screamed in horror. The other students couldn't bear to close their eyes. An excited smile appeared on Zheng Luo's face. What he liked most was seeing people smashed by meteor hammers to the point of dying. He had reserved his power. If this young man died like this, he could only blame himself for being too weak. But the next moment, Zheng Luo's smile froze on his face. Boom, dash. The dazzling flames spread suddenly like an explosion, and a fiery air wave swept across hundreds of meters. The ground of Miracle Healer Academy, which was paved with special green bricks, melted and shattered one after another. The trees on both sides were also swept by the flames, turning into ashes in an instant. Seeing that the situation was not good, Zheng Shouyue and Li Qingquan quickly set up their protective shields, enveloping the students and retreating. They narrowly avoided the engulfment of the flames. Zheng Luo, who was the first to bear the brunt, only felt that the flames were like hellfire. His protective shield was corroded at the touch. "I'm at the soul-splitting stage. How can I possibly be injured by the flame of a gold core stage kid?" Nangong Hua and the others were also shocked. They used magic weapons and spiritual power to resist. However, Yun Jingxue and the others were out of luck. They had just been poisoned by Shiyu, so their spiritual power could not be used and could only be beaten passively. When the flames hit, Nangong Hua and the others only cared about protecting themselves. When they remembered to pull them into the protective cover, the hair of Yun Jingxue and the others had been scorched black. When the wind blew, black ash fluttered down and exposed patches of scalp like lumpy head. After burning for 10 seconds, the flames slowly subsided and dissipated in the air. Zheng Luo panted heavily while looking at the young man-boy not far away with horror. The meteor hammer had already fallen to the ground. Although it was not burned to ashes, most of it was melted. The young man in front of him was unharmed, but his face was shockingly pale. Nangong Hua gasped. A gold core stage young man unexpectedly blocked the soul-splitting stage's attack, and he even counterattacked. Who is this young man? At this moment, Heshi felt weak. If she moved a little, she would directly collapse to the ground. What she had just used was a newly learned move in level 3 of the Maha Inheritance, Sinless Fire. This move should originally be used after reaching the peak of the nascent soul stage. Once that Sinless Fire ignited, it could burn everything within a radius of several kilometers. Even the soul-splitting stage powerhouse couldn't stop the burn of this Sinless Fire. Chapter 1523. Reunion. However, Hashi was only at the gold core stage now. How could she condense Sinless Fire? Therefore, she thought of a way to use the circle of life in her body to convert the other 5 types of spiritual powers into fire spiritual power in a short period of time and launched this attack. This was a truly fatal blow, and its power was astonishingly powerful, but after the attack, Hashi only felt so weak that she could fall asleep at any time. Not to mention taking another blow from soul-splitting stage. Even if Yun Jingxue rushed to retaliate now, Hashi would be defeated with one blow. It was a pity that Yun Jingxue didn't know about it. She was frightened by Shiyu that she held her burned bald head and cried. Nangonghua's face became more and more gloomy. He could feel Jing Luo's disordered internal aura, which meant he suffered major internal injuries. A gold core stage can actually hurt the soul-splitting stage. If such a young man is united with Nangongyu, the consequences will be disastrous. Even if I will face Nangongyu's crazy revenge in the end, this young man must not be kept alive. Thinking of this, Nangonghua finally walked forward slowly with a cold face. He was wearing gloves on his hands. After taking off the gloves, a pair of fiery red palms covered with scales was revealed. He wanted to kill this genius young man before he gained more power. In the distance, Lu Jishi watched this scene excitedly and nervously. She bit her fingers nervously and muttered, "Kill him, kill this scum. No, it's too easy for him. It's too easy for him to die like this." The young man wearing a white mask laughed and said lightly, "Don't worry, Nangonghua will abolish Shiyu, but he won't kill him right now. Yes, abolish him and let him become a trash and a slave to be trampled on." Lu Jishi became more and more excited. She almost wanted to jump out to see that man's miserable end with her own eyes. But she was immediately stopped by the young man beside her. "What do you think of the cooperation I mentioned?" When Lu Jishi was stopped, her originally excited nerves relaxed. She slowly turned around to look at the young man with a mask, then she smiled sweetly. "Tong Bing, we are already old friends. Why are you still wearing a mask? You really recognized me." Tong Bing seemed not surprised. He chuckled and took off the mask, revealing a harmless face, but only for a moment. The mask was put on again. "Shiyu is too vicious, too cunning. I can only set him up from the dark." When Lu Jishi heard the name Shiyu, she gritted her teeth. "As long as I can make Shiyu suffer, I don't mind working with anyone. What do you want me to do?" Tong Bing showed viciousness in his eyes as he looked into the distance. "You wait for my news. I will let you know when I need your help. Don't let anyone know our plan." Not far behind Lu Jishi, Kai Yu stood beside Lu Jishi's bodyguards. Looking at the two people whispering at a low voice, a dark light flashed in his eyes. At this moment, the battle situation in the distance changed again. After Nangonghua took off the gloves, the hands full of scales suddenly swelled. Behind Nangonghua, there were countless similar ghost claw shadows rushed toward Hashi. Chapter 1524. You are the same Zheng Shouyue, and the others couldn't see how bad Shiyu's situation was at this time. If she really got hit, Shiyu would cripple even if he didn't die. Zheng Shouyue's mind was buzzing with wild thoughts. He rushed forward almost without thinking. However, the moment he touched the swaying ghost claw shadows, he felt a burst of tearing pain all over his body. Then he screamed and got knocked away. Nangonghua sneered. He didn't bother these ants from the lower realm. All he wanted was Shiyu. Even if he couldn't kill him, he would at least tear off his hands and feet, break his meridians, and make him unable to grow again. The black ghost claw shadows fell, but the expected sound of flesh and blood being torn apart did not come. Nangonghua only felt a huge pressure rushing toward his face, causing a suffocating pain in his chest. His body instinctively retreated quickly. Heshi's frail body was embraced in a warm and broad embrace. The breath of that embrace was so familiar, so reassuring for her, as if she had found a shelter. Nangong Yu hugged her frail body tightly, fearing for a while. He lowered his head and said in a hoarse voice, "Sheer, I'm sorry. I didn't protect you well." Heshi buried her head in his arms and rubbed her face coquettishly, then she said in annoyance, "It's all your fault. If you didn't arbitrarily announce the marriage, I wouldn't have been entangled by so many people. Even your family members came here to kill me. Do they deserve to be my family?" Nangong Yu sneered. Looking down at the girl's pale face, he felt full of guilt and pity. He whispered in her ear, "Yes, it's all my fault. When we're married, you can punish me however you want. Well, it's best to be in bed." Heshi blushed and kicked him angrily, trying to kick him away, but her spiritual power and physical strength had not yet recovered and her whole body was limp like a ball of water, so kicking seemed like flirting with him. The people watching not far away seemed to see pink bubbles popping out from them. Suddenly someone from the Huang medical branch snorted coldly, "Who the hell said that our Shiyu isn't worthy of His Highness King of Hell? Don't the person who said that feel blind?" Many people in Miracle Healer Academy who originally despised Shiyu for hooking up with His Highness King of Hell couldn't help swallowing at this moment. They obviously hated same-sex relationship, but looking at the sweet scene in front of them, they somehow felt an indescribable harmony, as if Shiyu and Nangong Yu belonged to each other naturally. "Nangong Yu, you unfilial son, is this how you treat your elders and your uncle?" Nangong Hua glared at Nangong Yu coldly. The ghost claw shadows behind him seemed to feel the master's anger and swayed wildly. The pair of hands with scales clenched tightly, making click sounds. Nangong Yu's attitude of completely ignoring him completely angered the current family master of the Nangong family. Nangong Yu held Heshi with one hand as he glanced at Nangong Hua and smiled mockingly. "Elders deserve respect only if they look like elders. Second uncle, did you forget that I said before that the only one I'm marrying is Shiyu? If anyone dares to stop me, I will make them pay a terrifying price. Even you, my dear uncles, are the same." Chapter 1525. Who else dares to touch, and you? Nangong Yu turned his gaze on Jing Luo and said with an eerie killing intent, "What are you dare to hurt my wife? Have you ever thought of the consequences?" Before Nangong Yu finished speaking, his figure suddenly flashed. A power force was charged in his hand and swung toward Jing Luo's face fiercely. Jing Luo let out a scream. He was sent into mid-air, then he fell heavily again. When he landed, everyone saw that his face was covered in blood, and the skin on his face was cracked in several places. The most frightening thing was that all of Jing Luo's teeth had all fallen off. Martial artists had spiritual power that could enhance self-recovery. External trauma was generally no problem, but for broken arms and missing legs, except for doctors who truly had godly medical skills, others couldn't treat them. The same was true for teeth that were knocked out. Zheng Luo looked at his teeth that fell out all over the floor and opened his mouth. Hearing the sound of his panting and thinking that a soul-splitting stage martial artist like him was humiliated like this in the lower realm, he fainted suddenly. You! Jing Luo is the confidant of our Nangong family." Nangong Hua was trembling with anger, unable to speak. But Nangong Yu sneered and said, "I spared his life for the sake of my grandmother. If you feel dissatisfied, why don't I screw his head off right now? I want to see who dares to touch the person I, Nangong Yu, want to marry." These words were not just for Nangong Hua. His cold gaze swept over everyone around, including Lu Jishi and Tong Bing, whose faces could hardly be seen in the distance. Everyone caught by this sight couldn't help but tremble all over. If Shiyu was scary, then His Highness King of Hell, who was now recognized as the #1 person in the Miluo continent, was absolutely terrifying. He was so horrifying that no one could raise a trace of resistance. But Nangong Hua refused to accept it. "I'm from the upper realm Siam continent. I'm the master of the Nangong family, and I'm Nangong Yu's uncle. Why should I be humiliated by a junior?" Why should I be intimidated by Nangong Yu? Nangong Hu took a deep breath, and his eyes were filled with ominous light. Not only the ghost claw phantasms behind him didn't disappear, but they even became more rampant and solid. He looked coldly at Nangong Yu and Shiyu who was in his arms, and said grimly, You can marry any woman. Your second uncle I will not interfere, but the premise it must be a woman. What is this thing? A toy boy? You can play, but if you want to marry him, your second uncle and grandmother absolutely disagree. Do you want our Nangong family to lose face in front of the world? Nangong Yu sneered, What are you, Nangong Hua? You bowed your head in front of that woman Lu Wushuang, lying at her feet like a dog and listening to her. Do you think you and the current Nangong family have any face? Nangong Hua took a sharp breath. He knew that Nangong Yu had been investigating the cause of his parents' death, but he didn't know how much he had found. Does he know everything? Nangong Hua was flustered, then a strong killing intent rose in his mind. He said coldly, Since you are so stubborn, then don't blame Uncle for being rude. After finishing speaking, he waved his hand, and the martial artists at the peak of the nascent soul stage lined up behind him. The leader of them was 1 foot stepping into the soul-splitting stage. Chapter 1526, Void Spirit Shield. Nangong Hua said in a deep voice, Catch that Shiyu, if anyone obstructs or resists, kill. Yes, family master. Nangong Yu's eyes turned cold. He was about to kill the guards of the Nangong family first, but a fierce ghost claw attack from Nangong Hua roared over. Nangong Hua had already thought clearly, since his nephew valued Shiyu so much, at least he had to control Shiyu first. No matter how high Nangong Yu's cultivation level was, Nangong Hua was also at the soul-splitting stage. If he had to protect Shiyu, he could never be his opponent. In the end, both of them would die. But if he let go of Shiyu and fought with him, the guards of Nangong family would capture Shiyu alive. Nangong Hua sneered. No matter what, Nangong Yu and Shiyu can't escape from me. The howling ghost claws with by murderous vibe rushed toward Nangong Yu and Heshi. But Heshi suddenly pushed Nangong Yu out. Nangong Yu didn't show any surprise. His body flickered. The black long sword in his hand unsheathed as he rushed toward Nangong Hua's guards. Seeing this, Nangong Hua was overjoyed. Is Nangong Yu stupid? He actually left Shiyu to attack those guards? Does he think Shiyu can resist my attack? But at the next moment, a scene that horrified Nangong Hua happened. The ghost claw phantasms seemed to hit a wall and be bounced away when approaching Shiyu. Moreover, the bouncing force even made Nangong Hua take a step back. Heshi looked at Nangong Hua's embarrassed face leisurely and indifferently, but a half-smile evoked on her mouth. What's going? What the hell did this Shiyu do? Nangong Hua was startled and suspicious. A hint of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. The hands that returned to normal size enlarged and turned into terrifying ghost claws again. The onlookers only felt that a shadow flashed in front of them, and a violent attack was launched toward Shiyu. Be careful, Shiyu! Terrified screams sounded one after another. Zheng Shouyue and the students from Huang Medical Branch turned pale with fright. Even Qing Luan yelled with a pale face, Master, hurry, to help. However, the young man's frail body wasn't torn into pieces as they thought. Nangong Hua's attack caused a rumbling noise when landing in front of Shiyu. The aftermath of the attack that leaked out made people tremble all over. However, none of the attacks fell on Shiyu. Amidst the violent storm, the peerless young man smiled leisurely. He even had the leisure to straighten his own clothes. Impossible! How is this possible? Nangong Hua's entire face twisted. His face was full of anger and disbelief. He couldn't believe that his attack couldn't hurt a gold core stage kid at all. Suddenly, Nangong Hualing looked closely at Heshi's surroundings. Only then did he realize that the young man's body was covered with a layer of transparent void spirit shield. It was almost firmly attached to the young man's body, and the fluctuation of spiritual power was almost non-existent that Nangong Hua didn't notice the void spirit shield at all. However, even the soul-splitting stage martial artist couldn't cast such a void spirit barrier, let alone Nangong Yu. Chapter 1527. Disciple, and why Nangong Hua was astounded. He looked around in panic and shouted, "Who is it? Which senior is it? Stop being sneaky and show yourself? Why are you protecting a toy boy from the lower realm? Bah! You bullied my darling disciple, and you still have the nerve to ask me why? Do you believe I will cut off you bastards' heads and kicked like balls?" Nangong Hua suddenly heard the voice coming from above, but even if he gathered spiritual power in his eyes, he couldn't see anyone, making him even more panic. Just as he was about to speak, an upside-down human head suddenly appeared in front of him. An old face with a gray beard and hair was facing him upside down, looking at him with disgust. Then he burped a mouthful of alcohol directly on Nangong Hua's face. Nangong Hua was terrified by this sudden scene. He backed away in quick steps, stumbled, and almost fell to the ground in embarrassment. The old man who was floating upside down in the air smiled, turned over in the air, landed on the ground, and ran straight toward Heshi. "Yo, my adorable disciple. Long time no see. I really miss you." Heshi looked at him teasingly. She said with a clear and sweet voice, "Master, are you missing me? Or my wine?" "Ha!" The old man scratched his hair and laughed awkwardly. "The wines will be finished no matter how many wines there are. After drinking all the wines, I will think of you. There is no difference between thinking about wine and thinking about you, right?" Heshi's mocking expression couldn't hold back any longer. She smirked and showed a delightful smile. "Got it, I just made a lot of new wines recently. I'm sure Master will be satisfied." She knew that her master of course didn't come just for the wine, otherwise he would not have appeared at this timing. He probably heard the news about Nangong Yu's marriage, and he knew Nangong Yu's identity, so he purposely came here to support her. These words from Heshi were more comfortable than telling 10,000 words of flattery to the old man. "My disciple is really the best." At this time, Nangong Hua looked at the old man as if he had seen a ghost. His finger pointing at the old man was trembling as he stammered, "You, immortal Xian Qing?" The old man looked at him with disgust and put his hands on his hips as he said, "You were the one who attacked my darling disciple, and you scolded me for being sneaky?" Nangong Hua was dumbstruck. All the Siam continent people present, including Yun Jingxue who had a lumpy head, all showed incredible shocked expressions. No one in Siam continent really didn't know about immortal Xian Qing. Its strength can be compared with Divine Moon Palace's venerable Hui Yu and Lu family's old monsters. The Nangong family and the Yun family were just small families attached to the Lu family, but they had never even met the master of the Lu family, let alone a powerhouse like immortal Xian Qing whose whereabouts were erratic. But this powerhouse expert told them that Shi Yu, that young man from the lower realm who they regarded as a toy boy, was his disciple? How could everyone not be shocked? No wonder that this Shi Yu has such a powerful ability at such a young age. If his talent is ordinary, how can immortal Xian Qing accept him as disciple? Chapter 1528. Deserved to be slapped. Immortal Xian Qing squinted his eyes, glanced at Nangong Huajing Luo and the guards who fought with Nangong Yu, and said with a cold voice, "All of you are really getting bolder. Don't you forget that the one gave the order that martial artists on the upper realm plane are not allowed to enter and leave the lower plane at will, let alone attack the people in the lower plane? Are you not afraid of being annihilated for acting recklessly in Miluo continent?" When immortal Xian Qing said that, Nangong Hua's body visibly trembled. Deep fear was shown in his eyes. That was awe and fear 100 times stronger than facing immortal Xian Qing. In Siam continent, no one dared to violate that godlike existence, no one. However, the godlike person had disappeared for decades. Maybe he would never appear again. That was why more and more people no longer obeyed his orders. Thinking of this, Nangong Hua felt better. He forced a smile and said, "Immortal Xian Qing, don't be angry. It's not just our Nangong family who go in and out of the Miluo continent at will. Isn't the Green Vince clan acting recklessly in this continent too? If the one still exists, can the Green Vince clan survive until now? Immortal Xian Qing did not refute, but he only smiled meaningfully. I hope you will not regret it in the future. Just as they were talking, the last guard of the Nangong family was defeated. Nangong Yushi leisurely walked back to Heshi's side. When he was about to embrace his beloved, Immortal Xian Qing turned around and launched a gust of wind with his sleeve. Nangong Yu was pushed back a few steps by the strong wind, and his face turned grim instantly. Immortal Xian Qing snorted, "Boy of the Nangong family, you actually let your bastard relatives bully my darling disciple, and now you still want to get close to my darling disciple, in your dream. If it weren't for your dead father and your grandmaster, I will beat you together." Nangong Yu stared back in displeasure and said coldly, "Old man, even without you, I can protect Sheer well. You'd better go back where you come from." As he said that, he ignored Immortal Xian Qing's prying eyes, hugged Heshi, and gave Immortal Xian Qing a provocative look. Immortal Xian Qing was so furious that his beard trembled, but seeing his disciple's obedient and sweet appearance in the brat's arms, he felt that even if he beat Nangong Yu, it would be a futile effort. Immediately, he glared fiercely at Nangong Hua, venting his anger on these guys. Nangong Hua was trembling all over. He endured the unwillingness and fear in his mind for a long while before bowing respectfully and saying, "Immortal Xian Qing, it's all my fault. I didn't expect Shiyu to be your disciple." "Sorry." Immortal Xian Qing flicked his sleeve and slapped Nangong Hua hard on the face twice. Although these slaps did not use spiritual power, they were a great humiliation to Nangong Hua, the family master, especially in front of the lower realm trash. Immortal Xian Qing stroked his beard and laughed. "Oh, how refreshing." Sure enough, the people in the Nangong family, from top to bottom, from the old to the young, are not good things. All of you deserve to be slapped. As he spoke, he gave Nangong Yu a side glance. Nangong Hua's face turned green and pale. The shame and anger in his eyes almost burned out his reason. However, Immortal Xian Qing's strength was higher than him. No matter how much dissatisfaction he had, he could only suppress it. Chapter 1529. Match up to. He glanced at Nangong Yu and Heshi, who were embracing each other. Then he respectfully said to Immortal Xian Qing, "Immortal Xian Qing, it's not that I want to target your disciple. It's just that you saw it too. My nephew Nangong Yu actually wants to marry your disciple Shiyu. This is really ridiculous. I went into conflict with Shiyu because I was shocked. I believe Immortal Xian Qing will not agree on this marriage, right?" "What do you mean by that?" Nangong Hua babbled so many words, but Immortal Xian Qing only heard one meaning. "You mean that my disciple is not good enough for your nephew? Bah, is there anyone my disciple can't match? As long as she likes it, I will support her." Nangong Hua's face distorted for a while. He didn't know whether Immortal Xian Qing was pretending to be stupid or deliberately messing around. He gritted his teeth and said, "Both of them are men. Don't Immortal Xian Qing think that it is inappropriate for two men to get married? Who will inherit Yuer's legacy? Immortal Xian Qing, don't you worry that Shiyu will have no successors?" Immortal Xian Qing was taken aback at first, then he laughed out loud. His beard and eyebrows trembled due to the laugh as if he heard the funniest joke in the world. After laughing enough, he examined Heshi and Nangong Yu before said leisurely, "What's wrong? As long as my disciple likes it, let alone one man, even if he wants 100 men, I won't stop him. What's more, it's clear that your Nangong boy is pestering my disciple every day. If you dare, let Nangong Yu stop following my disciple." "Why are you Nangong family bullying my disciple? Is it because he has no background? Let me tell you, Shiyu is my only darling disciple. If anyone dares to bully him, I will teach you a great lesson." Immortal Xian Qing's idea was very simple. Even if my darling disciple is a man, it is Nangong Yu matching up to him. How can you look down on him? Since you all despise my apprentice, I won't tell you that she is a woman. Just go crazy yourself. As for Nangong Yu, Xian Qing snorted. his faint gaze pierced at the man occupying his disciple. "I warn you, if you want to marry my darling disciple, wait until you get rid of these people first." Nan Gongyu was about to answer, then Nan Gonghua suddenly looked at Nan Gongyu sullenly. He said in a deep voice, "Nan Gongyu, are you really planning to marry a man back? Even if you don't think about Nangong family, don't you worry that your grandma will be sad if she finds out?" After speaking, Nan Gonghua paused and said meaningfully, "Your grandmother thought that you were going to marry a pretty lady, so she came here especially from Siam continent. I dare not let her know that her good grandson is going to marry a man." Nan Gongyu was taken aback. He murmured, "Grandmother also came to Miracle Healer Academy? Of course, he is in the Mojing Pavilion now." Seeing Nan Gongyu's expression, Nan Gonghua felt complacent. Sure enough, old lady Nangong is Nan Gongyu's weakness. As long as Nan Gongyu showed hesitation, immortal Xian Qing would definitely burst into anger. The marriage would naturally be cancelled. Otherwise, after learning about Shiyu's background, Nan Gonghua really didn't know what to do. Unexpectedly, Nan Gongyu was just stunned for a moment before saying firmly, "The person I want to marry is Shiyu. It doesn't matter whether he is a man or a woman. I believe Grandma will understand me." Chapter 1530, Kill. Grandma came to the lower realm because of my marriage? Nan Gongyu felt warm and moved. He had already decided to meet his grandmother in a while and tell her Shiyer's true gender. He could disregard anyone's opinions and lives in Nangong family, but old lady Nangong was his only concern in Nangong family. Nan Gongyu hoped that his marriage with Shiyu would get her sincere blessing. Before Nan Gonghua could speak, Lu Yun beside Yun Jingxue suddenly yelled hysterically, "No. The old lady will never agree. Shiyu is not only a man, but he is also flirtatious. He has ambiguous relationships with several men. Such a scum should be locked up in a joy house to be played by those men. How can be he young Master Yu's wife? Master Yu should marry our young lady." Before Lu Yun finished speaking, Nan Gongyu launched a dark red light from his hand. In the blink of an eye, Yun Jingxue didn't even have time to scream, and Nan Gonghua didn't even have time to stop the attack. The light shot through Lu Yun's chest and burst her heart. Lu Yun covered her heart, opened his mouth wide, and made a broken voice, "You, kill." Before she finished speaking, she was dead. Nan Gongyu's face was gloomy. There seemed to be a storm in his eyes. Immortal Xian Qing and He also frowned. The surrounding crowd was all shocked. In the distance, Tong Bing and Lu Zhishi had quietly left. Lu Zhishi gritted her teeth and said, "That scum Shiyu really has a good master. He actually didn't suffer this time. How lucky is he?" A trace of resentment flashed in Tong Bing's eyes, then it disappeared and turned into a deep smile. "Forget it, anyway, we didn't intend to use that idiot Yun Jingxue to deal with Shiyu. The good show we prepared for Shiyu is still coming. Speaking of which, the medicine from your doctor's association is really good." That Lu Yun's last performance must have planted seeds of doubt in everyone's hearts. When our plan is implemented, I believe that even the students and elders of Miracle Healer Academy will believe that Shiyu is a promiscuous scum. Lu Zhishi laughed loudly. Her beautiful face distorted due to overexcitement. "That's our doctor's association's unique drug. My dad doesn't even have much in hand, so how can it not be good? As long as that scum Shiyu can get a miserable end, not to mention the unique drug, I don't mind even if losing the entire doctor's association." Tong Bing's eyelashes drooped slightly, and his mouth evoked a sinister smile. "Don't worry, Fairy Zhishi, as long as our plan goes well, not to mention Nangong Yu and Miracle Healer Academy, even Shiyu's master, Immortal Xian Qing, will be shamed to have such a disciple. Think of the old man who was feared by the Nangong family, and his terrifying strength." Tong Bing felt hot in his heart. "When Shiyu is eliminated, I will serve Immortal Xian Qing attentively. I believe that Immortal Xian Qing must be able to see my talent and character and finally accept him as a disciple. As long as I become Immortal Xian Qing's disciple, I will have a solid background. At that time, Brother Xian Mu will definitely look up to me with admiration." Lu Jishi bit her nails, made the hysterical laughter again, and muttered, "Shi Yu dies." Tong Bing said with a low smile, "Fairy Jishi, let's wait for the good show." Not far away, Kai Yu looked at them from behind and slowly clenched the powerless hands hanging by his sides. Chapter 1531. Little Monster. After the chaos, Nan Gonghua and the others fled. The students of Miracle Healer Academy also dispersed. Nan Gongyu hugged Heshi and whispered, "Sheer, I want you to meet my grandmother. She is the only person in the Nangong family who truly cares about me. I want to share with her that you are the woman in my life, and I want to tell her that I want to marry you as my one and only wife. Sheer, are you willing?" Heshi smiled slightly. When she was about to say yes, Immortal Xian Qing pulled Heshi behind him, glared at Nan Gongyu and said, "No. As I said, you can only marry my disciple after you sort out the mess. Moreover, my Shi Yu is a maiden. Give her the respect she deserves. Your uncle has belittled my disciple to such an extent, how can you still let her go there? How can my disciple be so cheap?" Immortal Xian Qing waved his hand as he made the call. "I can allow my apprentice to visit your grandmother. However, I need the Nangong family to formally invite my disciple with proper etiquette, lest people say that my disciple is flattering your Nangong family again." As he said that, he turned his head and glared at Heshi. "If you dare to follow the boy secretly, I won't recognize you as my disciple." Heshi smiled helplessly, but she also knew that Immortal Xian Qing had good intentions, so she could only shrug her shoulders toward Nangongyu. Nangongyu looked serious, nodded, and said, "Immortal Xian Qing is right. I will go back and communicate with my grandmother first, then I will formally invite Sheer to meet her. I will never let Sheer suffer any grievances." Immortal Xian Qing nodded in satisfaction. "Well, you are still not hopelessly bad yet." After Nangongyu left, Heshi took Immortal Xian Qing back to the dormitory. Xianmu had gone elsewhere. His whereabouts had been erratic these 2 days. The dormitory of Huang Medical Branch was simple and shabby, but Immortal Xian Qing didn't mind. He enjoyed the delicious foods and wines prepared by Heshi. After eating full, he asked Heshi in detail about what happened during this period. Immortal Xian Qing's expression became a bit serious when he heard the big commotion Heshi made when she advanced to the gold core stage. He probed into Heshi's body with spiritual power for a while. He felt that her spiritual power was at least 3 times more than ordinary gold core stage martial artists. He said with a complicated expression, "My darling disciple, I already consider myself well informed, but I've never seen a little monster like you. Chaos Dantian already gave you a better talent than others, but in just 1 year, you skipped several levels in a row from the Foundation Establishment stage to the Gold Core stage, and it is even the Gold Core stage perfect stage. If people know about such advancement speed, even the talented disciples of the big sects in Siam continent can only sigh in shame." Heshi smiled slightly and said without shame, "If I'm not talented, how will Master accept me as your disciple?" Immortal Xian Qing was happy by her words, then he looked worried. "The first time I saw you, I felt that the spiritual power on your body seemed to contain the breath of life. It is the breath that someone with wood spiritual root can exude. Now that you have advanced to the gold core stage, I'm even more sure now. My darling disciple, in addition to the dual sky spiritual root of water and fire, do you still possess the wood spiritual root?" Heshi suddenly raised her head and met Immortal Xian Qing's deep eyes. She just hesitated for a moment before she nodded. "God!" Immortal Xian Qing let out a low cry as if he was looking at a monster. Chapter 1532. Purple Jade Phoenix Hairpin. Does this little girl know what it means to have a sky with spiritual root? Even in Siam continent, I have never heard of a person who can have a 100% pure sky spiritual root. However, if Immortal Xian Qing knows that what Heshi possessed was not only the wood sky spiritual root, but also a wood source that made all creatures go crazy for it, what would his expression be? After being surprised, Immortal Xian Qing's expression turned serious. You must not let anyone know about your wood sky spiritual route, especially the people in the upper realm. Heshi smiled and nodded. She would not say that Nangong Yu knew from the beginning, lest her master get mad again. Immortal Xian Qing was serious for a while, then he immediately lay down on the bed. While gnawing on the chicken leg, he shook his head and sighed. I didn't expect that you would save that old Hui Yu and establish a tie with him. That Hui Yu looks kind on the surface, but in fact he is extremely difficult to please. I didn't expect him to be impressed with you. By the way, you said that he gave you a gift? Hashi took out the purple jade hairpin that venerable Hui Yu let Wei Chengyuan deliver and handed it to Immortal Xian Qing. Immortal Xian Qing narrowed his eyes and glanced into the jade box, but this glance made him jump up in shock. Purple jade phoenix hairpin? What's wrong? Hashi blinked. Anything problem with this hairpin? Big problem. Immortal Xian Qing looked at Heshi with a complicated expression, making a chewing sound. The purple jade phoenix hairpin is very famous in Siam continent. Not to mention its powerful talisman array, which increases the cast speed, flying speed and movement speed of those who wore it. Just that exquisite style can make women scramble for it. But in Siam continent, few women would wear this purple jade phoenix hairpin. Hui Yi actually gifted this thing to Shiyu? What the hell is this old Hui Yu planning? Facing Heshi's questioning eyes, Immortal Xian Qing scratched his beard for a long time before saying, Purple jade phoenix hairpin and phoenix feather heavenly dress are originally a set. It is said that the purple hairpin and heavenly dress complement each other and can emit colorful light, which is too beautiful to behold. However, few people dare to wear it. Why? In Siam continent, many women tried to wear the purple jade phoenix hairpin and phoenix feather heavenly dress, but when they wear the heavenly dress, it will become dull. Not to mention the colorful light, it is even worse than coarse linen dress. It will also accentuate the ugliness of those women. You know how much those female cultivators love beauty, letting them wear a dress that will make them ugly is worse than killing them. So, over time, this purple jade phoenix hairpin and phoenix feather heavenly dress have become treasures that many women love and hate at the same time. There was another reason that Immortal Xian Qing didn't say. There are rumors that a woman who can wear the phoenix feather heavenly dress will become. Hashi smiled lowly and shut the jade box, interrupting Immortal Xian Qing's reverie. Whether it makes me look beautiful or ugly, it doesn't matter to me. If it's really useless, at worst, I'll find a chance to sell it. In the Mojing Pavilion. Yun Jingxue stared straight at a jade box that old lady Nangong opened. Inside was a dazzlingly beautiful dress that exuded a radiant light. Yun Jingxue believed that there was no woman who would not want to wear such a dress, and no woman would not want to stand in the spotlight. Chapter 1533, Phoenix Feather Heavenly Dress. Old lady, is this the legendary Phoenix Feather Heavenly Dress? Yun Jingxue exclaimed, Old lady, are you going to give this dress to Jingxue? Old lady Nangong sighed and said, Jingxue, you won't like this dress. This Phoenix Feather Heavenly Dress has been in our Nangong family for decades. Although no one can wear it, I still regarded it as a family heirloom. It's a pity that Lu Wushuang wanted it specifically, so I brought this piece of clothes to Miluo continent. Yun Jingxue became anxious. She said in a high-pitched voice, Old lady, how could Jingxue not like this dress? Such a beautiful wedding dress. If Jingxue could wear it to marry cousin Yu, how wonderful would it be? Lu Wushuang is so old already, why does she want this beautiful dress? However, as soon as Yun Jingxue was about to say that, she swallowed the words back. Not to mention that Yun family was far inferior to Lu family, her own life was still in Lu Wushuang's hands. Old lady Nangong looked at her with pity and said with a half-smile, If you don't believe me, Jingxue, try wearing this Phoenix Feather Heavenly Dress. Yun Jingxue was full of excitement. She couldn't wait to go behind the screen and put on the Phoenix Feather Heavenly Dress. This was also where Phoenix Feather Heavenly Dress was different from other clothes. It couldn't be worn by spells. A moment later, Yun Jingxue came out from behind the screen with a face full of anticipation. When she moved his feet, The ornaments on the phoenix feather heavenly dress made a pleasant jingle sound, just like the sound of heaven. However, as soon as old lady Nangong saw it, her face became stiff and her mouth twitched. She originally planned to say a few words of flattery, but she couldn't say a word. But the maid standing behind old lady Nangong couldn't help but burst out laughing when she saw her appearance. Yun Jingshue's complexion suddenly became extremely ugly. She suppressed her anger and embarrassment and asked the maid to bring the glass mirror. When Yun Jingshue saw her own appearance in the glazed mirror, her face was distorted. The dress she was wearing wasn't gorgeous at all. It was just an inconspicuous sackcloth. The coarse sackcloth tightly wrapped her waist and legs, which set off her thick waist and short legs, making her figure ugly. Her graceful figure was gone. The most frightening thing was that her hair that was burned by Shiyu's flame was originally covered up with spiritual power, but it was exposed after wearing this phoenix feather heavenly dress. The bumpy scalp looked like it had been bitten by a dog. The woman in the glass mirror in front of her was even inferior to a county girl, let alone a beauty in the Siam continent. Ah! Yun Jingshue screamed in horror. She fled behind the screen desperately, frantically tore off the dress and shouted, "What kind of shit dress is this?" The phoenix feather heavenly dress was quickly taken off without any damage. After leaving Yun Jingshue's body, it immediately shone brightly again. Old lady Nangong obsessively put the phoenix feather heavenly dress back into the jade box. Her vaguely contemptuous gaze swept over Yun Jingshue, and it became kind again. With tears of grievance in her eyes, Yun Jingshue was about to speak. Suddenly, a guard's voice came from outside the door. "Old lady, young master Yu has come to see you." Old lady Nangong straightened up excitedly and shouted, "Quick, let Yuer in." Chapter 1534. Grandma understands there was a gloomy light in Yun Jingshue's eyes. Of course she knew what Nangong Yu was here for. Remembering Tong Bing's instructions, she moved closer to old lady Nangong's ear and whispered a few words. Old lady Nangong's eyes turned grim, but a generous and kind smile appeared on her mouth. She grabbed Yun Jingshue's hand and patted it gently. "Don't worry, Jingshue, I know better than anyone that what is best for Yuer and the Nangong family. Yuer will definitely marry you, but you have to be patient, understand?" Knowing that old lady Nangong had agreed to their plan, Yun Jingshue smiled triumphantly and sinisterly before leaving. "Shiyu, you must be very proud for burning my hair and humiliating me in front of everyone, right? However, soon I will make you cry. Your end will be 100 times worse than mine." Nangong Yu walked into the room quickly. When he saw the old lady sitting upright, looking at him with a kind smile, he put up a sincere smile. He knelt down on both knees and solemnly kowtowed to old lady Nangong. "Grandson pays respects to grandma. Get up, get up." Old lady Nangong excitedly stood up from her seat with tears in her eyes and helped Nangong Yu up. Nangong Yu looked at old lady Nangong's gray hair at the sideburns, and he looked a little guilty. Old lady Nangong's cultivation was only gold core stage. Now she had lived for 300 years, her lifespan had slowly come to an end. As a grandson, he stayed in Miluo continent because of the blood feud of his parents. He had never been filial to his grandmother. Only now did he realize that his grandmother was so old. Nangong Yu held the old lady's old hand and said in a low voice, "Grandmother, after grandson gets married and kills the valley master of the 1,000 Poison Valley to avenge father, I will go to Siam continent and stay by your side in the future." Hearing that Nangong Yu said that he was going to kill the valley master of the 1,000 Poison Valley, old lady Nangong's expression froze visibly. However, she quickly covered it up and pressed Nangong Yu's hand. With tears in his eyes, she choked up and said, "Okay. Grandma believes in you. Grandma has been looking forward to the day of reunion with you." The two sat down and talked about some of their daily lives. Old lady Nangong asked Nangong Yu how he had been in the past few years and whether he had been wronged. Nangong Yu answered patiently one by one. When it was about time, Nangong Yu coughed lightly with a slightly shy expression. "Grandmother, about Shiyu, the sweetheart whom grandson wants to marry." Grandson wants to tell you that you don't need to say any more. Old Lady Nangong grabbed his hand and looked at him with trusting eyes. I've heard that Shiyu is a man. Grandma, listen to me. In fact, you will listen to your grandmother first. Tears slowly welled up in Old Lady Nangong's eyes. Her expression was full of regret and sadness. When I first heard Jingxue say that you were going to marry a man, grandmother was really very disappointed. Because grandma hoped so much that you would get married and have children to carry on the family line for your father. But later, grandma figured it out. You want to marry Shiyu so much, it must be because he is a good boy and you really like him, right? Nangong Yu nodded with a somewhat dumbfounding expression. Grandma, I was just about to tell you. Needless to say, grandma understands. Old Lady Nangong smiled kindly. Her eyes were full of love. They are tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.